Chapter 325. Shisheng left the palace, secretly imagining the chaos that would ensue the next day. He walked unsteadily toward the Prime Minister's residence. As a high-ranking official, such behavior was very dangerous, but there was no melodramatic assassination. She only saw a man run out of the darkness, followed by several burly women. Very good. A hero saving a damsel in distress. It was even more melodramatic than an assassination. Was it really okay to spill melodramatic blood every day? Those burly women chased after the man until he reached Shisheng. The man probably wanted to pounce on Shisheng, but Shisheng turned and easily avoided the man's bear hug. The man stumbled and fell to the ground. There was almost no light in the surroundings, so he could only distinguish them by the dim moonlight in the sky. Shisheng looked for a while before he could figure out who the man on the ground was. Duan Qingyan. I'm warning you, don't meddle in other people's business. The burly women also walked up to them, but they didn't even look at Duan Qingyan. Instead, they focused on Shisheng. Shisheng. I haven't even moved a finger. How am I meddling in other people's business? Blindness is an illness that needs to be treated. Prime Minister. Duan Qingyan was still lying on the ground, looking at Shisheng in panic. Save me. Save you? What the hell? Shisheng's lips curled up slightly, and he walked toward Duan Qingyan. Hey, hurry up and leave. This has nothing to do with you. If you leave now, we'll pretend we didn't see anything. Shisheng had already walked to Duan Qingyan's side, and under Duan Qingyan's expectant gaze, he picked him up. Prime Minister. Duan Qingyan's voice was choked with sobs. He knew the Prime Minister still liked him. Shisheng carried him toward the burly women, and the group retreated warily. Shisheng stuffed Duan Qingyan into the arms of the burly woman closest to him. Hold on tight. I won't help you catch him if he runs away. The burly woman. That's not right. Shouldn't I chase them away, then have a wonderful night with the beauty? Shisheng walked around them and walked forward. After taking a few steps, he paused and tilted his head. Next time, remember not to hire this kind of retard. It's obvious that he's a fake. Duan Qingyan. The retarded group. The Shisheng quickly disappeared from their sight. Duan Qingyan pushed away the masculine woman hugging him and shook his body in disgust. The tough woman's face immediately darkened. What are you looking at? You can't even do something I asked you to do. What a bunch of trash. Duan Qingyan poked the woman's chest with his finger. Duan Qingyan lectured them for quite a while, and the faces of the burly women were all ashen. When Shisheng was about to reach the Prime Minister's mansion, he felt that something was wrong with his body. She raised her hand to the lantern outside the Prime Minister's residence and looked at it. It was very clean. She put it to the tip of her nose and sniffed. There was no smell. But Shisheng quickly entered the mansion. My lord. Shisheng felt as if a fire was burning in his body and his mouth was dry. Good job. He actually dared to drug eye. Duan Qingyan. If I don't kill you, I'll take your surname. Shisheng refused to be helped up, and had someone prepare cold water. The Prime Minister's mansion was immediately thrown into chaos. Dai and Yingyu rushed over when they received news. Shisheng was already soaking in cold water. My lord, how did you fall for it? Should we invite? Shisheng's cheeks were red as he lay on the edge of the bathtub, not wanting to move a single finger. Go and capture Duan Qingyan for me. The two youths. Shouldn't we be inviting Sir Lingyu now? Why are we going to capture Sir Duan? Could it be that, my lord? The two exchanged a look. Then Dai left the room. As she stepped out, she was startled. Sir Lingyu, Sir Lingyu, where are you going? Dai was confused. Sir Lingyu was already here, so why didn't he go in? Could it be that they were embarrassed? Just as she was wondering what was going on, someone suddenly bumped into her. Then, she saw her mistress running out, dripping wet. She wasn't even wearing shoes as she chased after Lingyu. Dai looked at Yingyu, who had followed behind her. Yingyu inwardly facepalmed at Dai's blockhead. Sir Lingyu must have heard my lord talking about capturing Duan Qingyan. If my lord wants to capture Duan Qingyan in this state, won't others misunderstand? But from my lord's tone, it's clear she doesn't intend to let Duan Qingyan off. Yu felt that she wouldn't be able to explain herself to Yu, so she'd better go capture Duan Qingyan. Shisheng caught up to Yu in front of his room. Just as he was about to open the door, Shisheng ran over like a gust of wind. Yu frowned at him, his voice cold. "What are you doing here?" Shisheng panted as he propped himself against the door. The scorching heat and cold wind inside his body were like two worlds of ice and fire. "What did you hear just now? What did you not want me to hear?" Yu looked at him coldly. "I'm actually trying to trust a woman?" Shisheng took 2 steps forward. "I had someone. Prime Minister, there's no need to explain anything to me." Yu interrupted Shisheng. "Fuck. Are you trying to act like a CEO with me?" The drug in Shisheng's body was getting stronger and stronger. She endured the feeling until it passed, then continued. "I just wanted to." Yu glanced at her. Without waiting for her to finish, he pushed the door open and quickly closed it. "Damn you. Will you die if you listen to I finish?" Shisheng was quick to block the door, but her hand was still caught by the door. Hiss. What the hell? Why does I's precious hand keep suffering? Yu heard her gasp and reflexively released his hand. Enduring the pain, Shisheng pushed the door open and squeezed his way in. Bang! The door slammed shut. Yu retreated a few steps, maintaining a safe distance from Shisheng. The darkness concealed the emotions in his eyes. Shisheng leaned against the door and shook his hand. "So King painful. What kind of sin did I commit? Duan Qingyan schemed against me. I had people capture him to kill him. That's all." Seeing that Yu wasn't speaking, Shisheng hurriedly explained. Because of the pain, she managed to suppress the strange feeling in her body. But with Yu standing in front of her, Shisheng felt that it was a miracle that she was still able to maintain her rationality and not pounce on him. She rested for a while, then tried to get closer to Yu. If she didn't take the opportunity to sleep with him today, she would really be letting down the drug in her body. "Yu, I don't feel good." Shisheng grabbed Yu's hand and pressed her body against his. Her body was so hot that Yu trembled slightly. As soon as she touched Yu, Shisheng felt that all her rationality had disappeared. Right now, she only wanted this person in front of her. She wanted him. Yu. Shisheng wrapped her hands around Yu's neck and leaned in to kiss him. Yu didn't move at all. It was like a heater was hanging from his body until she reached into his clothes. Only then did he suddenly pick up Shisheng and walk towards the bed. Little fairy, you guys are so dirty. I'm really going to sleep with you this time. Shisheng. My hand hurts. Little fairy, I'd rather ask for votes. Come on, throw all kinds of votes at me. Chapter 326. Shisheng didn't know how many times she did it with Yu. She only knew that in the end, she didn't have any strength left and didn't even know how she fell asleep. By the time she woke up, it was already evening the next day. She was in someone's embrace, her face pressed against his smooth skin. She could hear his clear and strong heartbeat. She reached out to touch it. It felt so good. As she touched it, Shisheng wanted to go down, but was stopped by someone. "Esses." Someone grabbed her hand and took out a blanket. He rubbed a finger against the area where the door had pressed down on her last night. It was bruised and swollen. Shisheng raised her head slightly. Yu was frowning as he looked at her hand. Perhaps sensing her gaze, he lowered his eyes, his face turning red for some reason. However, he maintained his aloof expression. "You need to apply ointment to your hand. It's just a minor injury." Shisheng casually retracted her hand. But it hurt so much. Yep, he couldn't let his wife worry. He had to endure it. Yu let go of her and got up to look for clothes. Only then did he realize that the two of them had been too wild last night. His clothes were already unwearable. There should be some new clothes in the wardrobe. Shisheng pointed at the wardrobe nearby. She'd asked Yu to prepare them before she left. There was only one blanket on the bed. Yu hesitated for a moment, but in the end he still got out of bed naked. He'd already seen what he needed to see. There was nothing to be ashamed of. When Yu returned with the clothes, not only was his face red, but even his skin was starting to turn pink. Shisheng swallowed her saliva uncontrollably. "Yu, It's still early. We can get up later. Shisheng grabbed the clothes in Ling Yu's hands. Ling Yu glared at her and pulled the clothes back. It's evening. She thought it was morning. The clothes Dai Yu had prepared were all prepared according to the rules of the Prime Minister's lord. Although the clothes were plain, they were much more luxurious than his Taoist robes. Ling Yu looked like a completely different person in them. He was like a noble son raised by a large family, elegant and noble. My wife looks good in anything. What's a wife? Ling Yu asked, his face red. Wife means lord. Shisheng was afraid that Ling Yu wouldn't understand, so she explained it in this era. Ling Yu suddenly looked up at her, his gaze filled with surprise. My lord. Shisheng blinked. Yes, your highness, what's wrong? You want to take me as your master? He continued to ask. If I don't marry you, who else will I marry? Shisheng retorted. I've told you before that I only have you. Ling Yu lowered his head. But, my status doesn't allow me to become a ruler. Shisheng frowned. It took him a moment to understand what he meant. Taoists were considered illegal in this world. Only those from Mt. Wanyuan were slightly respected. The other Taoists had very low statuses. But even so, Ling Yu couldn't become the head of a family. Ling Yu looked at Shisheng's unreadable expression and said, Actually, Shisheng interrupted him and said firmly, If I want to marry you, no one will dare to object. How could she let the person she cherished suffer the slightest grievance? Ling Yu looked at her with a complicated expression. After a long while, he stepped forward and hugged her gently. Ever since that day, Shisheng moved back to his room and officially cohabited with Ling Yu. The 7 men the Empress had stuffed into the inner courtyard were secretly sent away by Shisheng without leaking a single word to Ling Yu. The men in the Prime Minister's estate were no longer allowed to serve in the inner courtyard, and were all replaced by women. From then on, the entire Prime Minister's estate knew that Sir Ling Yu was the Prime Minister's most cherished person. No one dared to slight him. Everything he ate and used was the best. Some things even the palace couldn't compare to. Everyone in the Prime Minister's estate knew just how much the Prime Minister doted on Sir Ling Yu, who hadn't even married into the family yet. It really didn't feel good to be stuffed with dog food by the Prime Minister every day. He's gone missing? Shisheng was sitting in his study, his brush spinning rapidly. Yes, I heard that the Ning Prince is also looking for him. Her Excellency had ordered them to capture Duan Qingyun, but they couldn't find him even after searching several streets. The next day, the Ning Prince's men also started looking for Duan Qingyun. Shisheng stopped spinning his brush, dipped it in ink, and drew a strange thing on a piece of paper. Dai Yu. She couldn't understand what Her Excellency was drawing. Do you recognize this symbol? Shisheng asked Dai Yu as he pointed at the black blob on the paper. Dai Yu was confused. Ink meeting? Mooncake? Dai Yu was going crazy. Her Excellency, your drawing is too. I can't recognize it at all. Her Excellency, are you sure you're not playing with me? In the end, when Dai Yu took the paper and left, she felt like her entire life had gone wrong. If anyone managed to recognize this thing, she'd call them Dad. Ling Yu happened to be coming down from the corridor, and saw Dai Yu standing at the doorway with a piece of paper in her hand. He couldn't help but take a second look at the paper, his gaze darkening. Sir Ling Yu. Dai Yu bowed to Ling Yu, then left in despair. It didn't take long for Dai Yu to gain another father. Of course, she didn't dare to call him that. If she dared to call Sir Ling Yu Dad, Her Excellency would definitely chop her to death. Chop her into 8 pieces. Reality proved that it wasn't that Shisheng's drawing was too abstract, but that the symbol was abstract to begin with, and when Shisheng drew it, it became even more abstract. Dai Yu quickly found Duan Qingyun by following the location of the symbol. There was another youth with Duan Qingyun, but the youth was already dead. He looked rather pitiful. Shisheng was silent for a good while after hearing this. After she left that night, Duan Qingyun had probably gotten into an argument with those people. She didn't know where Duan Qingyun had found these people, but it was obvious that they weren't good people. He actually dared to come here alone in the middle of the night to extort money. As for that youth, she heard that he was Jiangji's boy toy. She just didn't know how he got involved. It wasn't until Ling Yu pinched her that she snapped out of her daze and kissed him on the cheek right in front of Dai Yu. she weakly explained. I wasn't thinking about him. Dayu, who was being force-fed dog food. Her eyes burned. Her Excellency, please pay attention to the situation. Where's the corpse? Shisheng cleared his throat and pretended to sit properly. It hasn't been sent back yet. Shisheng directly ordered. Send the corpse to Jiangji. My Excellency, that's not a good idea, is it? What if the Ning princess said that they were the ones who killed her man? She wouldn't be able to explain herself. Do you think I'm afraid of her? Send it to her. Dayu was speechless. Forget it. There were already so many rumors about Her Excellency, so one more wouldn't matter. Recently, there were rumors in the capital that the crown princess's disappearance was caused by Prime Minister Jun Liu. The Empress faction was naturally furious, but they had nowhere to vent their anger. The Prime Minister's faction quietly observed the situation and continued to secretly develop the Prime Minister's faction to strengthen the ranks of the rebels. The attitude of the commoners was rather interesting. They weren't as nervous as they should have been. Instead, they were analyzing whether or not the Prime Minister was responsible for the Crown Princess's disappearance. Some people even started betting. News of Shisheng's outburst for Lan Yan's sake was also dug up. Was the Prime Minister rebelling or not? When was the Prime Minister going to rebel? #hashtag is the Prime Minister rebelling or not? #please vote. Chapter 327. Shisheng had originally planned to have someone kill Duan Qingyun, but the Ning princess's men arrived before her men could do anything. Jiangji had personally led them there. It was a mountain stronghold, and the area was famous for its bandits. The bandits had already been killed, and their corpses were piled up outside the stronghold. Jiangji headed straight for the stronghold. Dayu arrived just a step ahead of Jiangji, and was about to order someone to bring Duan Qingyun out when Jiangji appeared. Jiangji didn't even look at the unconscious Duan Qingyun. She first looked at the corpse covered in white cloth. Jiangji was practically trembling as she pulled the cloth off the youth's body. It had to be said that the youth was very good-looking, but he wasn't wearing a single piece of clothing. Besides his face, everything else was a tragic sight. Dayu looked at the unconscious Duan Qingyun. If she killed him in front of the Ning princess, would the Ning princess fight her to the death? In the end, Dayu decided against it. The Ning princess had brought quite a few men with her. If she did anything, the Ning princess would label her as an insubordinate. It was better to bring him back and let Her Excellency deal with him. Her Excellency could be willful, but she couldn't. Since the Ning princess is here, we'll leave him to you. Dayu waved to the people next to her, then prepared to leave with Duan Qingyun. As for suppressing the bandits, the Prime Minister's estate wasn't in charge. Halt! Jiangji called out to Dayu in a hoarse voice. Is there anything else, Ning princess? Dayu stopped and turned to look at Jiangji. Neither servile nor overbearing. Qingyun is this princess's concubine. Where do you want to take him? Duan Qingyun offended Her Excellency, so of course I'm bringing him back for Her Excellency to deal with. Dayu replied confidently, as if she wasn't taking a person away, but an insignificant object. How could Qingyun offend Jun Liu? Jun Liu still hasn't given up, right? Dayu was speechless. Our Excellency only has Sir Lingyu in her heart, alright? Dayu had never liked Duan Qingyun before. Now that she had Sir Lingyu as a comparison, Duan Qingyun was even less worth mentioning. How did you find this place? How did Jun Liu know he's here? Was this her scheme? Jiangji continued. Dayu tried her best to maintain the demeanor of an expert from the Prime Minister's residence who was second only to one person, and above hundreds of others. With the Prime Minister's residence's strength, it's very easy to find someone. What kind of scheme was it for Duan Qingyun? Darren could kill him with a single slap. Qingyun doesn't like her. Why is she so persistent? What's the point of using such a method to get Qingyun? Let him go. Jiangji was certain that Shisheng would not let Duan Qingyun off. King Ning. Dayu took a deep breath and said with a hint of mockery, if our lord really liked Duan Qingyun, she wouldn't have broken off the engagement with him back then. Back when the Empress had decreed for Her Excellency and Duan Qingyun to annul the engagement, Her Excellency had specially gone to ask Duan Qingyun about it. It was only because Duan Qingyun wanted to annul the engagement that Her Excellency didn't interfere, and allowed the Empress to do as she pleased. If His Excellency was unwilling, the Empress's imperial edict would be useless. Jiang Zi's expression changed. Previously, she had been so agitated by the youth's death that she had lost her mind. In the past, she didn't really understand the power of the Prime Minister's estate, but recently, she had a deep understanding of it. How did Qingyun offend her? Jiang Zi calmed down. No comment. Daiyu nodded at Ning Wang. Goodbye. Jiang Zi trembled with rage as she watched Daiyu take Duan Qingyun away. Jun Liu. After a long while, she turned and carried the youth down the mountain. This youth was very clingy and obedient. If Jiang Zi were to rank him in her heart, he would rank second. The first was the man who had saved her from Shisheng that night, Qin Hua. By the time Daiyu brought Duan Qingyun back to the Prime Minister's estate, he had already woken up. He didn't seem to have suffered any injuries, and even his clothes were clean. He didn't know why he had been unconscious for so long. He saw the person walking in front of him. Daiyu, did the Prime Minister save him? She must have come to save him. He looked around. It wasn't his first time here, so he naturally recognized the Prime Minister's estate. He couldn't help but feel excited. The Prime Minister still had him in her heart. But when he was locked in a woodshed, he realized that something was wrong. What are you doing? I want to see the Prime Minister. Daiyu looked coldly at Duan Qingyun. See the Prime Minister? Dream on. Daiyu had the door locked. Let me out. I want to see the Prime Minister. She liked him and wouldn't treat him like this. These servants must have acted on their own. Duan Qingyun's voice was hoarse from shouting, but no one answered him. When Shisheng heard that Daiyu had brought Duan Qingyun back, he wanted nothing more than to slap her to death. Why did you bring him back? Even if the Ning Prince was there and you were afraid, what if you left the mountain? The road back is so long. You could have just found a random place to kill him and dump his body. Why did you bring him back? Daiyu seemed to see the rage in Shisheng's eyes. She rubbed her nose in embarrassment. What if the Ning Prince came looking for him after she killed Duan Qingyun? Go kill him right now. Shisheng slammed the table, then left to coax his wife. In the past, Feng Xi would burn him when he was jealous. Perhaps it was because of the frame of this world, but he actually left in a fit of anger. Shisheng tried to coax Duan Qingyun for a long time, but to no avail. In the end, he was even chased out of bed. Shisheng felt that he should mark this down for Daiyu. Just as he was about to go kill Daiyu, he sneezed several times. Is someone thinking about me? Shisheng moved to the side of the bed and leaned over to look at the bulging ball on the bed. She poked it. There was no response. I didn't bring this person back to the residence. Wife, please be reasonable. Shisheng tugged at the blanket. Lingyu held on tightly to the blanket, but Shisheng couldn't budge him. She tried to tug from a different angle, but Lingyu seemed to be competing with her in terms of strength. Shisheng let go of the blanket with a headache. #wife's jealous and ignoring me. Waiting online, this is urgent. She knew how strong Feng Xi's jealousy was. Sometimes, if she looked at him too much, the other party would suffer. What he was showing right now was only the tip of the iceberg. Shisheng nagged at Lingyu like an old mother. Lingyu curled up in the blanket. He wasn't really angry. Instead, he felt warm, as if his soul was being warmed. He liked the feeling of her coaxing him. It wasn't until Shisheng had been nagging for about 10 minutes that Lingyu poked his head out from under the blanket. His face was flushed red, and his forehead was covered in sweat. Shisheng smoothed his hair. You're sweating. Do you want to take a shower? Otherwise, you won't be able to sleep well later. Are you still angry? Lingyu grabbed her hand. Promise me something. Speak. Shisheng nodded. In the future. Lingyu's lips moved, but no sound came out. What is it? In the future. Lingyu gritted his teeth. I'll be on top. Shisheng blinked, then suddenly smiled and said indulgently, all right, if you like it, I'll let you be on top. In the future, I'll let you be on top. Lingyu didn't expect her to agree so quickly. Apart from being surprised, he was also delighted. In this era, if a woman could let a man be on top, it meant that she really liked him. She liked him to the bone. Asterisk thank you to the cherub for your tips. Hashtag daily pleading for votes. Hashtag. Chapter 328. Shisheng expressed his cordial greetings to Daiyu for not only failing to kill Duan Qingyun, but allowing him to escape in the end. He's so weak. How did he manage to escape from you? Shisheng narrowed his eyes. He was clearly smiling, but Daiyu felt that it was even worse than when Her Excellency was neither smiling nor talking. Daiyu broke out in a cold sweat. This subordinate isn't sure either. It was as if I was distracted for a moment, and when I came back to my senses, Duan Qingyun was gone. Smack. Shisheng slammed his hand on the table, unable to conceal his anger. Everyone else in the residence is dead. How could you let such a grown man escape? Daiyu fell to her knees with a thud. She lowered her head, not daring to speak. This was the strange part. The Prime Minister's residence was surrounded by guards, but no one had seen Duan Qingyun leave. It was as if he'd vanished into thin air from the Prime Minister's residence. Daiyu was shocked by her own thoughts. How could a living person just disappear into thin air? Something was definitely wrong. Shisheng rubbed his forehead. Duan Qingyun couldn't have escaped from Daiyu's hands. Someone must have helped him. Take control of all the officials in the capital, Shisheng finally ordered. Daiyu's eyes lit up. Was Her Excellency going to rebel? Shisheng wasn't in the mood to rebel. She was cutting off Jiangxi's escape route. If she'd sent someone to rescue Duan Qingyun, according to the plot, Duan Qingyun would definitely complain to Jiangxi, and Jiangxi would be out of her mind to deal with her. Regardless of whether or not this plot would happen, cutting off the enemy's escape route had always been her main goal. Jiangxi was from the Prince Ning's residence. In the capital, which was controlled by the Prime Minister's residence, she couldn't cause any waves. All the officials in the capital, big and small, were under control. Of course, the Prime Minister's faction was an exception. However, the Prime Minister's faction didn't know what Shisheng wanted to do. They asked to see the Prime Minister, but were all blocked outside. No one was able to see the Prime Minister. The rumors outside grew more and more intense. The capital was shrouded in a strange atmosphere. It was as if crossbows were knocked and ready to fire at any moment. The Empress urgently contacted all the military personnel in the capital to rescue the Empress. However, there were very few that could be contacted. The news had either been cut off by the Prime Minister's faction, or they had not been able to contact many military forces. There was no way to resolve the current crisis in the capital. When Shisheng went up the stairs, he heard the Empress smashing things inside. Prime Minister. The servants kneeling outside saw Shisheng coming up the stairs and knelt down one after another, trembling. Shisheng walked between them and pushed the door open. The Empress was wearing her usual clothes, and she was smashing porcelain. The floor was a mess, and the man in the palace robe was kneeling in a corner with a few other men, trembling. Junliu, what are you doing here? Are you here to laugh at me? When the Empress saw Shisheng walk in, she threw the porcelain in her hand at Shisheng. Shisheng dodged to the side and looked the Empress up and down. You don't look like a joke. Why do you say you are a joke? The Empress's breath was neither up nor down, and she couldn't utter a single word for a long time. Shisheng pulled out a chair, shook off the shattered porcelain, and sat down. Do you want to keep your throne? The Empress's hateful gaze landed on Shisheng like a knife. Junliu, what are you playing at? Multiple choice question. Shisheng took out 2 slips of paper from his sleeve and unfolded them in front of the Empress. Do you choose the throne or your daughter? Will you let me go? The Empress sneered. She had already gone to this extent. Would she give up the throne that was within her reach? Which one do you choose? Shisheng shook the paper. The Empress cursed malevolently. Junliu, you traitor. You will die a horrible death. Last chance. Which one do you choose? The room suddenly fell silent. The Empress stood there, her bloodshot eyes filled with hatred. After a long time, the Empress stretched out her hand and pointed at one of the slips of paper. Shisheng let go of the other piece of paper. The piece of paper wobbled and landed on the broken porcelain. Tomorrow before daybreak. Shisheng stood up and pressed the tiger tally and the slip of paper onto the chair. I don't want to see anyone from the Ning Prince's residence again. The Empress was from this world. If she wanted to kill the female lead, the latter's luck wouldn't be as good as hers. Shisheng smiled wickedly at the Empress. Of course, you can use this on me as well, as long as you think you can succeed. The Empress's gaze landed on the tiger tally. Shisheng walked out of the palace. The people kneeling outside were as silent as cicadas in winter. They wished they could stuff themselves into a crack in the ground, so that the Prime Minister couldn't see them. However, the Prime Minister didn't say anything. He leisurely walked down the stairs and disappeared into the night. Men. The Empress's voice rang out in the palace. That night, everyone near the Ning Prince's residence heard the screams coming from within. It was tragic and desperate. Later in the night, a huge fire burned the residence to ashes. Shisheng saw Duan Qingyun's corpse but not Jiang Ji's. Shisheng laughed sinisterly. The female lead couldn't even be killed. Damn it, why didn't she die? Shisheng sent people out to search, but they couldn't find Jiang Ji even after turning the entire capital upside down. Shisheng felt that the female lead would be a disaster if he didn't kill her. After a few days of lockdown, the capital was finally lifted. The officials under control were freed. The dark clouds hovering above the capital seemed to have dispersed in an instant. The Prime Minister didn't rebel. The Empress was still in power. The only change was that the Ning Prince's residence had been burned to ashes. It was said that none of the people inside had escaped. Even the Ning Prince had died in the fire. Everyone on the streets was talking about this. Did you know? I heard that on the night of the fire, there were screams in the Ning Prince's residence. Some people even saw the imperial guards nearby. You mean Her Majesty? That can't be right. The Prime Minister has the military power now. Could it be the Prime Minister? The Prime Minister and the Ning Prince. The grudge between the two was caused by a man. A few days ago, that man had gone missing. Both the Ning Prince and the Prime Minister had sent people to look for him. These people's imaginations immediately conjured up a huge drama. Shoo. Some people suddenly quieted down and anxiously signaled for their companions to stop talking. Ling Yu came down from the second floor. The people below immediately fell silent. Why was the Prime Minister's pet here? Many people had seen Ling Yu during the Heavens ritual. Later on, they heard that the Prime Minister doted on that little Taoist very much. When they saw Ling Yu following behind Ling Yu, how could they not know who she was? It had to be said that the Prime Minister had excellent taste. No one in the capital could compare to this beauty. That waist, that skin, that face. The Prime Minister was truly blessed. No wonder the Prime Minister treasures this pet so much. If I had him, I'd also dote on him to the heavens. If I could have him under me for one night, I'd wake up laughing in my dreams. Some of the braver ones looked at Ling Yu with ill intentions. Their filthy discussions reached Ling Yu's ears. Ling Yu frowned slightly, his aura suddenly turning cold. What did you say? Ling Yu huffed. Do you want to die? These people actually dared to call Sir Ling Yu a pet? Weren't they afraid Her Majesty would beat them to death? Asterisk little fairy, pleading for votes. Chapter 329. Beat them up. A clear female voice rang out from outside the store. A figure walked in, her gaze sweeping over the people who had spoken just now. They could only blame their bad luck for sitting by the window, where Shisheng happened to hear them. The people behind Shisheng entered in a single file and gave those people a beating. The others retreated to a corner and looked at Ling Yu with complicated expressions. The Prime Minister had beaten them up just because they said a few words. This little Taoist priest must be really good in bed, to be able to coax the Prime Minister into doting on him so much. They really didn't expect these little Taoist priests to be so good at fighting for favor. Perhaps they could find a little Taoist priest to try their luck. Let's go home. Shisheng reached out and grabbed Ling Yu's hand. These people are nasty with their words. If you see them again, just get someone to beat them up. The coldness in Ling Yu's eyes faded, replaced by a faint gentleness. He shook Shisheng's hand back. Why are you here? I just came out of the palace and saw the people outside. I guessed that you were here, so I came to take you home. Home, he had a home now too. Let's go home. Ling Yu didn't know that Shisheng had come to look for him after hearing that Ling Yu was out on the streets. Everyone in the capital knew that they couldn't talk about the Prime Minister's boy toy. Not a single word could be said. Even praising him could lead to a beating. After seeing the extent to which Shisheng doted on Lingyu, the aristocratic young masters who used to fear the Prime Minister wished they could turn back time. If they had been more proactive back then, they might have been the ones receiving such treatment. Many of the aristocratic young masters regretted it. Seeing that Shisheng hadn't officially married Lingyu, and considering his status as a Taoist priest, these aristocratic young masters couldn't help but feel restless. A Taoist priest couldn't be the ruler. The Prime Minister would have to marry someone else in the end. They still had a chance. As a result, some aristocratic young masters began to approach Shisheng. Chance encounters, accidents, robberies. They'd used everything they could think of. But they hadn't even touched the corner of the Prime Minister's clothes. This only served to further ignite the competitive spirit of these aristocratic young masters. They all declared that they would take down the Prime Minister no matter what. Shisheng didn't even want to go out right now, as a group of men would swarm over to him like madmen. Even if she threatened them fiercely, it was useless. You still haven't found it? No, we sealed off the entire capital and searched every street. It's impossible for us to have missed anything. My lord. Do you think Prince Ning is already dead? That night was so chaotic. If Prince Ning was accidentally killed, it was possible that he was mixed with the corpses and burned. I won't. How could the female lead die so easily? She could not die until her good luck was exhausted. Although Daiyu did not know why the Shisheng was so certain, she still did as the Shisheng said and arranged for people to search outside the city. Shisheng returned to her room. That brat Gu Su was actually in her room, and he was standing very close to Lingyu. Who let this brat out? Senior brother. Gu Su was very afraid of Shisheng. As soon as Shisheng came in, he burrowed into Lingyu's arms. This woman is so scary. Even his senior brother was bullied by her. Shisheng reached out to grab Gu Su, but Lingyu pulled him back and frowned at her. Shisheng. Gu Su proudly raised his brows at Shisheng. Senior brother still dotes on him the most. Have I spoiled you too much? Shisheng narrowed his eyes, his voice somewhat sinister. Don't think that just because I spoiled you, you don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Lingyu let go of Gu Su. Junior brother, you go out first. No. If he went out, senior brother would be bullied by this woman again. Be good. Lingyu patted Gu Su's head. Shisheng's gaze became increasingly sinister. It was as if he wanted to chop Gu Su into pieces. In the end, Gu Su was scared out of his wits by Shisheng's terrifying gaze. Senior brother, just you wait. I'll definitely save you. Shisheng expressionlessly pulled Lingyu to a copper basin filled with water. He pressed Lingyu's hands into it, and rubbed them vigorously for a while before letting go. It's not that I don't want you to be with Gu Su, but you can't touch him. Can't you promise me this? Shisheng lowered his head to wipe Lingyu's hands, his voice somewhat soft. Lingyu had also realized that Gu Su usually didn't react much when he spoke to her from a distance. But as soon as Gu Su got close to him, she would immediately turn hostile without any warning. I'll be more careful next time. He had lived with Gu Su for so many years that Gu Su was like a younger brother to him. Shisheng pulled his hand and kissed it. Lingyu's gaze flickered. He suddenly closed in on her, and lowered his head to take her lips in his mouth. First, he carefully licked and nibbled on her lips, then became as wild and intense as a storm. Shisheng was a little confused by his actions. Lingyu was the one in control, and she was forced to accept and respond the entire time. Lingyu, don't be like this. What's wrong? Shisheng couldn't see Lingyu's expression in the darkness, but he was biting her shoulder with so much force that it hurt. He was still inside her, pressing down on her without moving an inch. Lingyu. Shisheng waited for a while, but he didn't move at all. Instead, he bit down harder and harder, to the point that she suspected that her shoulder was bleeding. Lingyu released her and licked her lightly with his tongue, causing Shisheng to tremble slightly. Lingyu then kissed his way down her neck to her lips. Before Shisheng could ask any questions, he abruptly moved. Shisheng was completely dumbfounded. She had no idea how she had offended him. She should be the one getting angry. When everything calmed down, Ling Yu rolled over and went to sleep. He pulled the blanket over himself and didn't leave a blanket for Shisheng at all. Shisheng. F***ck, my wife wants to go to the heavens. Shisheng was so angry that she forcefully tore off the blanket and pinned Ling Yu down for 300 rounds. Although Ling Yu's body reacted, he didn't take the initiative to respond to her. Shisheng was instantly discouraged. Ling Yu, say something. What's wrong? Feng Xi had a tendency for silent violence. What the hell? Are you going to marry the Empress? Shisheng's heart skipped a beat. She had only discussed this matter with the two youths. How did he find out? When Ling Yu saw that Shisheng didn't respond for a long time, he assumed that she had tacitly agreed with his words. I'll return to Mt Yuan tomorrow. I won't delay the Prime Minister from marrying the Empress. Shisheng snapped out of her daze and pinched Ling Yu's face. What are you saying? Ling Yu turned his head and avoided her hand. Let's just pretend that nothing happened. Shisheng's mouth twitched. Did he misunderstand something? Shisheng sighed. Who do you think I'm going to marry? Ling Yu fell silent. If you leave, who am I going to marry? Don't tell me you want to marry me from Mt Yuan. It's not impossible, but it's a bit far. I'm afraid it'll be a bumpy journey. If you insist, I'll send someone to Mt Yuan to make the preparations. There's only one person I want to marry in this lifetime. His name is Ling Yu. And the person I want to marry in this lifetime is Feng Xi. Shisheng. Please call me Domineering Co. Sure. Chapter 330. You want to marry me? Ling Yu's voice trembled slightly. Be your husband. I promised you. Shisheng kissed Ling Yu's lips. Don't be angry. I wanted to give you a surprise, but who knew you'd hear half of it from somewhere and misunderstand me? Sorry. Ling Yu's voice was extremely soft. There had been too many young masters around her recently, so he was feeling very insecure. He reached out to touch Shisheng's shoulder, only to feel something wet. He anxiously got up. You're bleeding. Let me bandage it for you. Why did he bite her so hard just now? Ling Yu climbed off the bed and lit the lamp. With the light, Shisheng finally saw that her shoulder and back were practically covered in blood. Was this guy a dog? I'm sorry. Does it hurt? Ling Yu wiped the blood off her back. How about you bite me back? Shisheng glared at him. Luckily you bit my shoulder instead of my neck. I'd be dead by now. Sorry. Forget it. Just treat it as leaving a mark. She was really getting more and more shameless. She was definitely going to spoil this guy to death in the future. Ling Yu carefully cleaned up Shisheng's blood and applied medicine before hugging her to sleep. Do you know why I followed you down the mountain? Ling Yu's voice was a little hoarse in the darkness. Isn't it because I'm more handsome? Ling Yu was speechless. Before Master left, he told me that I couldn't leave Mt Yuan for 3 years, or else I'd face a bloody calamity. A bloody calamity? It was most likely related to the female lead. Shisheng began to imagine a melodramatic drama. Then why did you follow me down the mountain? I don't know. It's just a feeling. I feel like you. Ling Yu couldn't quite describe that feeling. It was as if being together with her was an incredibly natural thing to do. More importantly, his master had left him 2 brocade pouches. His master had instructed him to only open the first one when someone came looking for him. So after Jiangji came looking for him, he opened it. There were 2 slips of paper in the pouch, one of which only had 3 words. Her name. When he saw her for the first time, he somehow blurted out those 3 words. Another note said that she could cure him of his bloodshed. Your master has quite the foresight. Shisheng clicked his tongue. He could even calculate this. Yes, master is very powerful. Bring me to meet him when you have time. All right. Wife, don't touch me. My shoulder hurts. I don't want to move. I'll just move. In the wilderness outside the capital, Jiangji and a man were holed up in a dilapidated temple. The man's entire body was covered in wounds, and he was half-hugged by Jiangji. For the past few days, Jiangji had been hiding with this man. However, the people from the Prime Minister's estate were searching for her with great vigor. She could hardly stay in one place for a night. Junliu, you and I are irreconcilable. Other people transmigrated and lived a good life. Why did she have to suffer like this? She was indignant. There was also the Empress. She was her daughter, yet she had actually helped that Jun Liu come to kill her. Even a vicious tiger would not eat its cubs. These people from the royal family could not even be compared to beasts. Ugh. Qinhua, are you okay? Jiangji heard the man in her arms groan, and immediately lowered her head to look at him. Water. Qinhua moved his lips, which were full of wrinkles. Wait a moment. Jiangji placed him on the ground and picked up the broken bowl on the ground. She ran to a half-broken water jar outside to scoop some water. Just as she was about to enter, a group of people suddenly rushed in from outside the temple. They were full of murderous intent and held torches in their hands. They came face to face with Jiangji. Jiangji immediately saw the clothes they were wearing. She paused for a moment, then broke into a run toward the temple. Catch her. This is the woman who led the bandits to destroy our village. Don't let her escape. Jiangji heard the footsteps behind her. Her heart, which had been frightened a few days ago, was once again alarmed. That idiot Jun Liu actually didn't kill all those bandits. Jiangji helped Qinhua to his feet and ran toward the back of the temple. Qinhua wasn't very heavy, but compared to dragging an unconscious person, running alone was definitely much slower. Fortunately, she had checked the layout of the temple beforehand. There was a forest behind it. Jiangji and Qinhua entered the forest. Under the cover of the night, it would be difficult for the bandits to catch them. She didn't dare to stop. From time to time, loud shouts could be heard from behind, causing her back to break out in cold sweat. I have to run. I have to run. This was the only thought in Jiangji's mind. She still hadn't gotten her revenge. She couldn't just die like this. Jiangji lost her footing and fell to the ground. She smashed into the damp ground and ate a mouthful of mud. Before she could get up, she felt another weight on her body. Jiangji heard the sound of her ribs breaking and fainted from the pain. News that the Prime Minister was about to marry Taoist Ling Yu of Mt Wanyuan spread like wildfire through the capital. When the young masters of noble families who thought they had a chance heard the news, they all looked like they had swallowed a fly. Was the Prime Minister crazy to marry a Taoist as her lord? The Prime Minister's faction immediately sent people to persuade her. Unfortunately, they couldn't even enter the Prime Minister's residence. Sirs, please return. Her Excellency won't see you. The Shisheng refused to see anyone, so the task of chasing them out fell to Yu and Yu. The two of them persuaded the ministers gathered outside the Prime Minister's residence to return. Miss Yu, what is the Prime Minister thinking? How could she marry a Taoist as her lord? If the Prime Minister really likes Taoist Ling Yu, she can marry him as her lord. But this lord position is absolutely unacceptable. That's right, Miss Yu. Let us in, and we'll speak to the Prime Minister personally. How could she marry a Taoist as her lord? That's against the rules. That's right, she can't. Miss Yu, please pass on the message. Yu felt a headache coming on as she was surrounded by a group of officials. You all know Her Excellency's temper. If she says she won't see you, no matter how many times we pass on the message, the result will be the same. After a pause, Yu continued. Her Excellency is determined to marry Sir Ling Yu as her lord. It's useless even if you try to persuade her otherwise. You might as well go pick out a few gifts and make Sir Ling Yu happy. The officials looked at each other in dismay. Does the Prime Minister really dote on Taoist Ling Yu that much? Yu nodded solemnly. Let me remind all of you, sirs. You must never be disrespectful to Sir Ling Yu. The consequences are very serious. They had all heard of the rumors circulating in the capital. However, the rumors were often mixed with both truth and falsehood. Most of the time, there were more false rumors than truth. That was why these officials didn't really believe them. But now, judging from Yu's tone, the Prime Minister really did dote on Taoist Ling Yu as much as the rumors said. Their Prime Minister, on the other hand, didn't even know how to act and was actually obsessed with beauty. * Prime Minister's faction. Prime Minister, are you going to rebel or not? Shisheng. What rebellion is there in front of beauty? Ling Yu. Prime Minister's faction. Fatuous ruler. Chapter 331. Under Shisheng's insistence, the wedding was decided in the end. Due to Shisheng's request, the wedding preparations took several months. During this time, there was no news of Jiangji at all. Even if the ministers didn't like Jiangji, they didn't dare to not attend the wedding. Right now the prime minister had the final say. Even the empress was under her control. The wedding was so grand that it was a bit shabby to describe it as 10 miles of red. It was clear just how much favor Lingyu received. The prime minister's residence only allowed the prime minister's faction to attend the ceremony. Everyone else was arranged to sit at the banquet. Even so, there were still many people attending the ceremony. Lingyu's wedding robe was more elaborate, while Shisheng's was simpler. The two of them stood in the wedding hall like two glowing objects, dazzling everyone. First bow to heaven and earth. Lingyu bowed together with Shisheng. The moment he bowed, a few images flashed through his mind. They were unfamiliar yet familiar. He tightened his grip on the red silk. Second bow to the parents. The images flashed through his mind so quickly that he couldn't see the people inside clearly. He only felt a sense of familiarity, so familiar that it made his heart burn. Husband and wife, bow to each other. Shisheng and Lingyu bowed to each other. The ceremony is complete. As the master of ceremonies announced this, the people around them clapped and congratulated them. Shisheng held Lingyu's hand. Holding your hand, we'll grow old together. Lingyu looked up at her with a complicated expression. A few seconds later his eyes relaxed, and a smile appeared on his face. After all the necessary procedures were completed, Shisheng didn't appear again. Yingyu and Daiyu took charge of the rest of the ceremony. The bridal chamber was still Shisheng's original room. However, it had been redecorated, so it was now completely red. Lingyu sat on the wedding bed and looked at Shisheng in confusion. Aren't you going out? Isn't she supposed to go out and propose a toast after the ceremony? Accompany those idiots? Shisheng raised his brows. I'd rather accompany you. Lingyu was speechless. Although he didn't know what idiots meant, she was definitely scolding those people. Little Taoist, every moment of the night is worth 1,000 gold. We have to cherish it. Shisheng stepped forward and lifted Lingyu's chin. For the sake of etiquette, they had been sleeping in separate rooms. It's still daytime. Lingyu frowned slightly. Shisheng quickly removed the extra things on his head. It'll be dark if you fall asleep. Lingyu was rendered speechless. Shisheng was standing, so Lingyu had to tilt his head slightly to see her face. The corners of her mouth curled up slightly, and there seemed to be a smile on her face. It was so gentle that it didn't seem like her. And her gentleness only belonged to him. He was alone. Lingyu pressed down on Shisheng's hand that was sliding down his neck. Do past lives really exist in this world? What were those images that flashed through his mind during the ceremony? There were two of them, but they were getting married in different places. Furthermore, they were wearing clothes that he had never seen before. Shisheng lowered his head and looked at him thoughtfully. After a while he answered solemnly, yes. Was there? Were they together in their previous lives? Was that why he was so familiar with her? Lingyu loosened his grip slightly. Shisheng immediately undid his jacket, pushed him onto the bed, and leaned over to kiss him. Lingyu flipped over and pressed Shisheng under him. His voice was hoarse. Didn't we agree that I'd be on top? Shisheng let go of his hands and lay flat on the bed. I'll let you have a taste. Lingyu's face reddened slightly. Shameless woman. At night, the Prime Minister's estate, which had been bustling all day, sent off the last batch of guests. The entire estate fell silent. A figure stood in a dark alley opposite the Prime Minister's estate, hatefully glaring at the swaying red lanterns. There was a large she character pasted on the lanterns. It was so glaring. Jiangji's fingertips dug deep into her palms. Footsteps sounded behind her. Jiangji let go and turned around. In the alley, people kept pouring in from all directions, with Jiangji and a man at the center. I'll avenge you. The man pulled Jiangji into his arms. I'll get back everything she owes you. Thank you. There's no need to say such things between us. Qinhua lowered his voice. Qinhua waved to the people behind him. They immediately scattered and hid in the darkness. When the sounds of fighting rang out, Shisheng had just finished bathing Lingyu. Don't be afraid. Shisheng comforted him in a low voice, then slowly helped him put on his clothes. There wasn't the slightest hint of nervousness or panic on his face. Ling Yu obediently raised his arms and legs, but his expression was somewhat helpless. Did he look that scared? Did she think that she was too weak? Knock knock. Your Excellency. There was a knock on the door. Shisheng had already helped Ling Yu put on his jacket. Come in. Dai lowered her head as she entered. It's not just the Prime Minister's estate that's under attack. Our people are basically under attack as well. The city's already in chaos. Who's so capable? Shisheng took out Ling Yu's flexible sword, but the next second, she turned to Ling Yu. Take this for self-defense. Don't use it unless it's necessary to avoid dirtying your hands. Okay. Dai. Your Excellency, this isn't the time to be throwing out dog food. It's the Qin Empire. Shisheng paused for a moment. Only then did he recall that although this world was ruled by women, there were still several smaller countries under the Empress rule. The Qin Empire was one of them. The Qin Empire was still a country ruled by men. Qinhua. Dai was astonished. Your Excellency, how did you know? Shisheng's lips curled up in a mocking smile. How could he not know about one of the FL's most beloved men? This man also had a high and mighty status. He was the heir of the Qin Empire, and had once been gifted to the crown princess. As the FL's man, he would definitely rebel, and not obediently marry the crown princess. Qinhua had run into the FL when he was escaping and was injured. She had saved him, and he had been hidden in her estate ever since. What are they trying to do? Rebel? Shisheng changed the topic. They're killing our people. Aren't you the one who's rebelling? They're saving the country, right? Your Excellency, it's not good. Yu hurriedly ran in from outside. The Empress contacted the Jinyuan general at some point, and her army has already surrounded the capital. The Jinyuan general had the most military power now. Previously, when the Empress contacted her, the Empress had ordered them to cut off the news. Somehow, the news still reached her. The Jinyuan general had been stationed at the border all year round. The Empress had tried several times to withdraw her military power, but failed. Shisheng narrowed his eyes. The army is already outside, and you didn't notice anything? Yu broke out in a cold sweat. She didn't dare to talk back. Your Excellency, it's your subordinates' fault. They really hadn't noticed the Jinyuan general's army before. Was there a traitor among her men? Yu and Dai had always done their jobs well. They shouldn't have made such a mistake. The Jinyuan general had brought back at least tens of thousands of people. Even if there was a traitor among so many people, it was impossible to hide. Shisheng thought of Duan Qingyun's disappearance and Jiang Ji's inexplicable disappearance. His face suddenly turned ugly. Was the heavenly Tao of this world helping Jiang Ji? *, please vote. 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 However, no matter how many times she looked at it, she couldn't calm the shock in her heart. What was the origin of her sword? Protect her well. Qinhua pushed Jiang Ji to the people behind him, then dashed towards Ling Yu's carriage. Shisheng watched his movements with a cold smile. He didn't do anything and continued to slash people with his sword. Fresh blood dyed the ground black, and the air was filled with the stench of blood. It was so thick that it was nauseating. Qinhua easily reached the carriage. Although he was surprised, he didn't dare to stop moving. He reached out and lifted the curtains. Ling Yu was sitting inside, dressed in plain clothes. His clothes were scattered all around him, and his expression was indifferent as his gaze met Qinhua's. Qinhua stabbed his dagger at Ling Yu, but Ling Yu remained seated. The strange feeling in his heart grew stronger and stronger, but he couldn't stop now. The dagger stopped a finger's length away from Ling Yu's heart. Qinhua felt a great force in front of him, and he couldn't stab any further. Did you think I would bring him out for a stroll without any preparations? Do you think I'm retarded? A cold female voice rang out behind him. Then he felt himself being sent flying by a great force and landing in a pool of blood. PFFF. Qinhua clutched his chest. Blood surged through his body, and his hair stood on end. He looked like a shamate from ancient times. Qinhua looked at Shisheng, who had ridden up to the carriage at some point. Her expression was one of disdain, as if she was looking at a piece of trash. Don't act on impulse. Do you understand my strength? Do you know how much power the Prime Minister's estate has? You need to have the strength to be angry for a beauty. Am I right, heir of the Qin kingdom? Qinhua's pale face immediately darkened. She even knows my identity. Shisheng urged his horse closer to the carriage and reached out. Lingyu stood up and placed his hand in Shisheng's. Shisheng exerted some force, and Lingyu sat in front of her while she wrapped her arms around him from behind. Shisheng had to thank the fact that women in this world were generally taller than men. Otherwise, she really wouldn't have been able to handle this position. Kill, Shisheng ordered. The people who had been protecting Lingyu no longer protected the carriage and charged in all directions. The sounds of battle rang out once more. Shisheng brought Lingyu along as if she were looking at flowers on horseback. She was so leisurely that it made people grit their teeth and want to stab 2 holes in her body. But attacking her would result in the same fate as Qinhua. Lingyu fiddled with the object in his hand. It was a small round ball, and its surface was covered with small holes that looked like honeycombs. It was a very sci-fi looking ball. Whether it was the workmanship or the design, he had never seen anything like it before. She had given it to him when she left the residence. He didn't expect it to be so powerful. The energy inside can only be used for 2 hours. It's enough for self-defense, but it's not very useful, Shisheng explained when she saw his curiosity about the ball. This kind of material could only be found in the interstellar plane. If there was a chance in the future, she would make him a long-lasting one that could attack and defend. Lingyu turned to look at her and suddenly asked, "Where did you come from?" Shisheng was stunned. "You're not the original Jun Liu," Lingyu continued. "Where did you come from?" Jun Liu wouldn't have such a strange object, nor would she be so arrogant. No matter how he looked at her, she wasn't Jun Liu. She didn't fit in with this world. "I came from..." Shisheng paused, then suddenly hugged him tightly. "Are you afraid of me?" She didn't want to lie to him, so if he asked, she would tell him. But he was still using the body of an ancient, so he would be restricted by this body's thoughts. She was afraid that if she told him, he would be afraid of her. Shisheng's only response was Lingyu's warm lips. No matter who she was, he only knew that she was his. Shisheng immediately seized control of the situation. Only when the 2 of them were both out of breath did they part. "I came from an even more distant spacetime." They weren't just separated by spacetime, there was also, "Will you leave?" "I will. Until the day you die. If you're here, I'm here. If you're here, I'm here," Lingyu repeated. The last bit of unease in his heart completely dissipated. If he was here, she would be here. The audience below was speechless. "Your Excellency, this isn't the time for you to show off your public display of affection. This is a battlefield. A battlefield, all right? Can't you act a little more like the Prime Minister? So many people are watching." #Prime Minister gives out public display of affection every day. Torturing a single dog to death. #cold public display of affection slapped all over my face. #. Thanks to Cherub for the tip. #. Daily please for votes. Chapter 333. Shisheng patted Lingyu's hand and looked around. The sounds of fighting had already stopped. Jiangji was nowhere to be seen. Qinhua had been captured, and everyone else was lying on the ground. "Where's Jiangji?" "Female lead Sama. Are you trying to ascend to the heavens?" "I have so many people here, but none of them can stop you." The people below shook their heads in confusion. None of them had seen her. "Your Excellency, what do we do with him?" Someone pointed at Qinhua. "How about we just kill him? He's the heir of the Qin Empire. If you want to kill him, just kill him." Shisheng rolled his eyes. "Bring him to the Empress to kill. Everyone. What's the difference? Isn't he going to be killed in the end anyway?" Shisheng brought Lingyu into the palace, while the others chased after Qinhua. They had 2 legs, but Her Excellency had 4. There was no way they could catch up. The palace was surrounded by people from the Prime Minister's residence. As the Empress, there was nothing she could do aside from throwing a tantrum and smashing porcelain bottles. As a result, When Shisheng brought Lingyu in, the floor was still littered with porcelain bottles. Just how many bottles had the palace prepared for her to smash? Last time, the floor was covered in broken pieces, and this time, it was covered in broken pieces again. Was this a waste? In the future, this would be money. The Empress was dressed very normally this time, and there weren't any male pets in the palace. The Empress glared at Shisheng venomously. This woman, she hadn't been able to plot against her several times. Every time, before her plans could be carried out, she would cause a series of unexpected events. Throwing a tantrum like that. You're already old, but now you're even older. Shisheng clicked his tongue, ignoring the Empress's ugly expression. Bring him in. Qinhua was brought in. Perhaps on purpose, when Qinhua was standing in front of a pile of broken porcelain, the person behind him kicked his calf, causing him to kneel. Blood immediately flowed from his knee. The person behind him looked pleased. Who told you to plot against the Prime Minister? And on the day of her wedding? You're courting death. The Empress coldly looked at the group of people. There was no use in saying anything now. He had lived a glorious life for most of his life, but in the end he ended up like this. Shisheng personally brought over a chair and placed it in front of Lingyu for him to sit. Only then did he turn to the Empress. The heir of the Qin kingdom is attempting to rebel. Your Majesty, how do you think we should deal with him? Weren't you the one who wanted to rebel? The Empress gnashed her teeth in hatred. If she could pounce on Shisheng and bite him to death, she would definitely pounce on him right now. Prime Minister, you can do whatever you want. There's no need to ask me. Now that all the power was in her hands, wasn't this just embarrassing her? It seems that you still don't know. Shisheng's lips curled into a smile, with malice and mockery. Your daughter. King Ning asked the Jinyuan army general to encircle me. Hearing this, the Empress's eyes suddenly lit up. Jinyuan general, do you think Jiangji will forgive you? Shisheng's words were like a basin of cold water being poured over his head. The scene of her besieging Prince Ning was still vivid in her mind, as if it had happened yesterday. She was the one who called the Jinyuan general back. Would she come to save him? Logic told the Empress that she wouldn't. If she were the one who was besieged by her own mother, she wouldn't forgive her mother either. Even if Jiangji was her family. In the maelstrom of the imperial family, there were no emotions to speak of. Ha ha. The Empress suddenly threw her head back and laughed loudly. She stumbled backward, tripped over an obstacle, and fell to the ground. Her laughter came to an abrupt end, and the Empress suddenly covered her face and cried bitterly. She was probably the first Empress in history to end up like this. How would the history books write about her in the future? Shisheng. What the hell are you crying for? After crying for about a minute, the Empress wiped her tears and stood up from the ground. After being an Empress for so many years, she still had an imposing aura. Jun Liu, what do you want? Speak. She had already come this far, so there was no way out. Shisheng shrugged. I'm just here to deliver you a traitor who wants to rebel. It's up to you how you want to deal with him. The Empress stared at Shisheng, her eyes bloodshot, as if she wanted to see a flower in Shisheng. Shisheng's gaze was calm as he held Lingyu's hand with one hand. The Empress glanced at Lingyu, who was still sitting on the chair, then took a deep breath. Drag him out and execute him. Qinhua's mouth was gagged, so he couldn't say a single word. All he could do was glare at Shisheng with resentful eyes. Shisheng smiled nonchalantly at him. Winner takes all. Who told you to lose? That night, the Prime Minister's wedding. That night, the Protector General's army besieged the city. That night, the Crown Prince of Qin was executed. Qinhua's death probably provoked Jiangji, as she and the Protector General began to attack the city. Shisheng's men had all retreated back into the city. The sounds of fighting outside the city shook the heavens and the earth. The citizens inside the city had long been scared out of their wits by tonight's events. During the day, they were still immersed in the joyous occasion of the Prime Minister's wedding. But at night, blood flowed like rivers and the city was about to fall. The battle to eradicate the traitors and save the Empress had officially begun. The Protector General's army had traveled a long distance, and didn't even have time to rest before entering the battle. They basically lost the first few rounds. But in the last few rounds, they actually won the battle. In their camp, there was a female lead from the modern era. It wasn't surprising that they could use the tactics summed up in the modern era to win. The morale of the Protector General's army was greatly boosted. Prince Ning, you're really amazing. In the tent, Jiang Ji stood with a woman in armor. The woman patted Jiang Ji's shoulder generously. It's just a little trick. Jiang Ji didn't smile. She couldn't smile at all. She suspected that Shi Sheng had also traveled through time like her, but she didn't have any evidence to prove whether or not it was true. She could only end the battle quickly. She didn't want to give Shi Sheng a chance to fight back. You're too modest, Prince Ning. The Protector General laughed again. If it weren't for Prince Ning's arrangements, we probably wouldn't have won. After the two finished discussing business and decided on the next strategy, the Protector General immediately sent people to make arrangements. After the arrangements were made, the Protector General looked at Jiang Ji standing outside the tent. Her back looked a little lonely. She couldn't help but feel moved. Don't be sad. You'll be able to avenge them soon. The Protector General patted Jiang Ji's shoulder. Jiang Ji didn't respond. She just looked at the city wall in the distance. The Protector General sighed and looked over as well. The city wall was brightly lit. There were people moving on it. It could be seen from afar that they were very busy. What are they doing? The Protector General muttered. It was the middle of the night. What were they doing on the city wall instead of sleeping? After being reminded by the Protector General, Jiang Ji's scattered thoughts came back. She looked over. It was a little far. She couldn't see what they were doing, but they were obviously very busy. Jiang Ji frowned and looked for a while. She really couldn't see clearly. The Protector General had already sent someone to check. The person who checked soon came back. After listening to the report, Jiang Ji and the Protector General discussed and came to a conclusion. They wanted to attack with fire. Jiang Ji couldn't help but show a mocking expression. She had thought of this before, so she moved the camp back a little. With the ability of this era, there was no way to throw flint so far away. Asterisk request votes. Monthly votes T*T the double event was about to end. Request votes. Chapter 334. On the city wall. Shi Sheng had people set up the items. These were all enlarged slingshots that had been modified. Shi Sheng held several small purple balls that were wrapped in a layer of yellow talisman paper. She called for people to gather around. Are the people below ready? Shi Sheng turned to ask Daiyu. Daiyu immediately nodded. They're ready. Shi Sheng distributed the balls to a few people. In a moment, I'll give the order for you to shoot these over. Wait for the explosion to subside before charging over. Understood? Understood. Get ready. The people who had been given the balls stood in front of the enlarged slingshots, their palms sweating. They had never seen the things the Prime Minister had given them, so they didn't know if they could shoot them over. Shi Sheng looked at Ling Yu, who was standing beside him. Ling Yu's face was pale, but he shook his head at Shi Sheng, indicating that he was fine. Shi Sheng stroked his face, feeling sorry for him. We'll go back after this is over. I told you not to draw talismans. I have a way to deal with this. Shi Sheng had always wondered why Ling Yu had spiritual energy in his body. He hadn't expected him to know how to draw talismans. Talismans were a skill in Taoism, and a well-drawn talisman was very useful. But in this world, Taoism was still in its infancy. Ling Yu had figured out these things himself, so spiritual energy only existed in his body. This was equivalent to a gift from the heavenly Tao. Once people learned about talismans in the future, the spiritual energy in this world would slowly become richer. Ling Yu gripped Shi Sheng's hand tightly. I want to do something for you too. He didn't want her to always be the one giving. Drawing talismans would only make him weak for a while. He would be fine after some rest. Shi Sheng didn't say anything else and turned to give the order. The small balls wrapped in talismans were shot out like bolts of lightning, cutting through the night and landing in a distant tent. Bang! Bang! The violent explosion caused the city walls to tremble. These people had never seen such a powerful explosion before, so they were all frightened. It took them a while to react and rush into the enemy camp. The explosion covered a wide area, and there was a large crater in the ground. Electricity sizzled inside the crater. In the chaos, people fell down. There was only one outcome for those who fell, and that was to be turned into charcoal by the electric current. The Shisheng didn't throw it randomly. The amount of these small balls was within the tolerance range of this world, so no strange things appeared in the sky. Jiangji was still dumbfounded when she was caught. She couldn't understand why she had such an advanced weapon. Even if she was a transmigrator, she wouldn't be able to create such an advanced weapon, right? Jiangji requested to see Shisheng. She had a lot of questions, but Shisheng refused to see her. The war ended in such a muddle-headed way. The strategies that Jiangji and the Jinyuan general had discussed were completely useless. Jiangji and the Jinyuan general were locked up in the dungeon. Both of them looked a little embarrassed. The chains rattled, and the sound of footsteps came from afar. "Your Majesty." When the Jinyuan general saw the people gradually approaching, her eyes suddenly lit up, and she rushed to the door of the prison. "Your Majesty, this humble subject is not plotting a rebellion. This humble subject is here to save you. Your Majesty, please investigate clearly." The Jinyuan general would never have thought that this would be the reason for her imprisonment. She had clearly come to save the emperor. How did it become a rebellion in the end? Jiangji curled up in a dark place, staring at the empress with resentment. The empress stood outside the prison door, surrounded by people. She was still graceful and dignified. The disheveled woman who had cried bitterly in front of the Shisheng was long gone. The empress waved her hand and dismissed everyone. "Your Majesty, save this humble subject." The Jinyuan general reached out to tug at the empress's clothes. The empress let her tug. She lowered her eyes and said faintly, "You shouldn't have come back. You shouldn't have come back." "Your Majesty?" The Jinyuan general looked at the empress blankly. What did she mean? The prime minister did not rebel. The empress's voice trembled when she said this. She didn't want to admit this was the truth, but it was the truth. The prime minister did not rebel. She was still the empress. She was still the prime minister. How could it be she? The Jinyuan general looked at the Ningguang. "Why did you kill me?" Jiangji asked through gritted teeth. The empress looked at her. There was no guilt in her expression, only disappointment. "If I were you, I wouldn't have come back so quickly. The most ruthless imperial family. I've learned it today." In the past, this sentence was empty. Her recent experience made her deeply understand what it meant to be the most ruthless imperial family. What did she transmigrate to this place for? "I will let you die with dignity." The empress sighed and turned to leave. Although she was the empress now, it was no different from before. The power was still in the hands of that person. Jiangji was in the dungeon, making a fuss about wanting to see the Shisheng. When the news reached the Shisheng, she didn't even bat an eyelid. Why should she go see him? Who did she think she was? She wanted to clear her doubts? Why should she? Go ask the king of hell with your doubts. The empress gave the two of them poisoned wine. It was said that Jiangji didn't want to drink it. Someone forced it down her throat. It was clearly a cup of poison that took effect quickly, but when it reached Jiangji, she lived for half an hour longer. The female lead's good luck hadn't run out yet. This matter came and went quickly. The people who didn't know the truth really thought that the Ningguang plotted against the Jinyuan general to rebel. Who dared to say anything when they knew the truth? In the throne room, the empress looked down at the prime minister, who was daydreaming. She waved her hand weakly and said, "If you have something to report, please report. If not, the court is dismissed." "I have something to report." The empress looked up at that person. The Shisheng also seemed to be disturbed by her, and tilted his head to look at her. That person trembled and braced himself to report. The general idea was for the empress to appoint a crown prince. The empress frowned. She wasn't in the mood to appoint a crown prince. Even if she was willing, would the person standing below be willing? That makes sense. We should appoint a crown prince. The empress thought she had heard wrongly. She actually agreed? When the Shisheng spoke, the people below immediately echoed his words. "Prime Minister, which princess do you think is qualified?" The empress gave the choice to the Shisheng. The Shisheng immediately looked back at the Empress like she was retarded. This isn't my country. How do I know who is qualified? The Empress was speechless. You're holding the power now. Isn't this your country? In the end, the argument didn't reach a conclusion, and they could only leave it unsettled. The Empress didn't go to court for a long time. She didn't have much power anyway. If something happened, the Prime Minister would be there. It didn't matter whether she went to court or not. She spent all her time in the harem with her male pets, drunk and dreaming. As a result, the entire court was in chaos. The Empress sent people to find the Prime Minister if something happened. The Prime Minister was much simpler and cruder. It wasn't her job. Why should they find her? Go find the Empress. In the end, the Empress found that her Prime Minister really didn't want to care about these things. She had to climb out of the arms of the beauty and deal with the court. The Empress. I'm devastated to meet such a strange Prime Minister. Chapter 335. Under Shisheng's protection, the Jun family had developed rapidly, and was now completely above the imperial family. But their thick thigh was only for one person to hug. They were all hugging Sir Lingyu's thigh. Only by coaxing Sir Lingyu would they have a chance to meet the Prime Minister, and have her do things. She had never seen anyone pamper someone so much. Not even in history. Shisheng had delegated authority to the Jun family. In any case, she had completed her mission. How far the Jun family could go was up to them. Shisheng brought Lingyu and the two youths back to Mt Wanyuan. Lingyu clearly preferred this place to the outside world. Shisheng naturally followed him. Away from the crowd, it was more convenient for Lingyu to belong to her alone. She was very satisfied. But that Gusu had almost been hacked to death by Shisheng several times. If not for Daiyu's timely arrival, Gusu would have died many times over. After Daiyu took Gusu away for the nth time, Shisheng exploded. I told you not to touch him. Don't you understand? Shisheng wanted nothing more than to slap Lingyu to death. Lingyu replied innocently, he's my junior brother. Shisheng, so what if he's your junior brother? I'm your partner. Can junior brother spend the rest of his life with you? No way. You're pissing me off. Shisheng huffed and left with a flick of his sleeves. If you don't coax me, I won't get on your bed. Lingyu shook his head helplessly and chased after her, grabbing her hand. Let's go down the mountain for a walk. What down the mountain? I'm not going. Shisheng swung his hand away, his expression saying, I'm very angry right now, whatever you say is useless. Lingyu's ears reddened, and he kissed her on the lips. What about now? No way. I'm not that easy to bribe. Lingyu kissed her again. I'll think about it. He continued kissing her. Not sincere enough. He continued kissing her. Only when Shisheng's anger subsided did he agree to go down the mountain. When they heard that Shisheng was going down the mountain, the two Yu and Gusu looked at her tearfully. They wanted to go too. Shisheng was speechless. He didn't want to bring a burden with him. Milord. Let us go, let us go. He was there to see his senior brother. In the end, Shisheng brought the 3 2,000-watt light bulbs down the mountain. She had left the imperial court for almost 2 years, but as soon as she entered the city gates, she was immediately surrounded by people. Isn't this the Prime Minister? Are you coming back to rebel? How long has it been since the Prime Minister attended court? Ever since the incident where Jinyuan General's army pressed down on the city. This was what these people said the most. Was the Prime Minister rebelling today? Not yet. They dared to say this because they knew that the Prime Minister would not rebel. If she wanted to rebel, she would have done so long ago. With a dark expression, Shisheng pulled Lingyu away from the crowd while shaking off the burden behind them. Shisheng looked at the people around him, and felt a little strange. Why is it so lively today? Shisheng shielded Lingyu, preventing him from being brushed up against by the people around him. Lingyu was already used to Shisheng's protection, so he enjoyed it with a clear conscience. The two of them walked and stopped for a while before finally choosing a place to eat. By the time they finished eating, it was already dark outside. It was only now that Shisheng realized what she had felt was wrong. Today was the begging festival. No wonder she had felt that something was off. Many of the things being sold on the streets were related to the begging festival. Little Taoist. Shisheng called Lingyu meaningfully. What was this guy trying to do by dragging her out today? Lingyu glared at her. Oh, he's even glaring at me now. His temper is getting worse. The begging festival was very lively. Young men and women would meet to stroll around the streets and light up lanterns. The atmosphere was very good. Lingyu pulled Shisheng along with him and quickly arrived at a place. What are we doing here? Shisheng looked at a large tree full of small signs and looked at Lingyu in confusion. He didn't believe in these things, did he? As it turned out, Lingyu really did. He bought 2 brands from the side and handed one to Shisheng. Shisheng was speechless. She stared at Lingyu for a few seconds before helplessly accepting it. It wasn't easy to carve words on a sign. Fortunately, there were craftsmen nearby who specialized in carving words. Shisheng pulled Lingyu over. The people in line probably recognized them and made way for them. So this is the Prime Minister and Sir Lingyu? What a good match. The Prime Minister only has Sir Lingyu as her master, and she treats Sir Lingyu even better. Will you only have me as your master in the future as well? Humph? Hey, wait a minute. Several couples parted unhappily at each other's hesitant answers. Shisheng and Lingyu smiled at each other. What does Sir want to carve? The craftsman asked in fear. This is the Prime Minister. Do you have pen and paper? Lingyu asked politely. Why yes. The craftsman hurriedly pointed at the paper on the side. There was a saying here that if 2 lovers wrote a promise in front of the 3-life tree, it would become true. When they grew old together, they would be able to come back and see the promise they had written. Shisheng's expression was indifferent. When they grew old, the sign on the tree would have changed so many times that it would be impossible to find it. Lingyu warned Shisheng, don't look. Shisheng pursed his lips. Fine, I won't look. Who cares? After Lingyu went over to write, Shisheng said to the craftsman, just carve his name for me. Yes, Prime Minister. The craftsman immediately took the sign from Shisheng and lowered his head to carve. By the time Lingyu came over, Shisheng had finished carving. The sign was made up of 2 movable wooden signs. The name was carved on one of them and couldn't be seen once it was closed. Once the words were carved and tied with a red string, the 2 of them walked over to the terrifyingly large 3-life tree. You toss it. Shisheng handed the sign to Lingyu. Lingyu took the sign and clasped his hands together, bowing to the 3-life tree before tossing it up and hanging it on a green leaf. A crisp sound could be heard as it swayed. Shisheng looked up at the sign. Lingyu took her hand and intertwined their fingers. The 2 of them stood there for a while before turning to leave. The commotion slowly died down and the crowd dispersed. The craftsman sitting under the 3-life tree prepared to pack up. Suddenly his vision darkened. When he looked up, he was so frightened that he almost fell to his knees. Prime Minister! Prime Minister! Shisheng squatted down and looked him in the eye. Help me carve 2 more names. The craftsman was dumbfounded. The Prime Minister had come for this. But there aren't any free signs. Shisheng frowned and looked around. The vendor who had been selling signs earlier had already disappeared. Shisheng remembered where Lingyu had tossed the sign, so he took it down and had the craftsman carve it there. The craftsman was puzzled, but he didn't dare to ask and obediently carved it. Shisheng held the newly carved sign and imitated Lingyu. He clasped his hands together, bowed, and tossed it up again. The night wind blew, and the sound of the wooden sign colliding against each other was as pleasing to the ear as a wind chime. Faintly, for names could be seen on the tangled wooden sign. Lingyu Liu. Fengxiai Shisheng. Asterisk the 11th world had ended. Seeking votes T to the power of T. Chapter 336. My name is Daiwa, but I actually have a surname. My surname is Jun. I'm from a side branch of the Jun family. In fact, the Prime Minister should call me his cousin. Ever since I could remember, the people around me had always instilled in me the idea that my entire life belonged to the Jun family's young mistress, Jun Liu. I had to be loyal to her. I had to protect her with my life. I didn't understand at the time, so I couldn't help but be rebellious and run away from home several times. The first time I saw her was in a restaurant. I'd already left home for several days and had squandered all my money. I was so hungry that I had no choice but to steal food from the restaurant. In the end, I was caught and beaten up. Then, I saw a beautiful little girl standing on the top floor of the restaurant, curiously looking down at us. Without exception, I saw my mother beside her. My mother was her wet nurse at the time. I probably didn't like this young mistress at the time. After all, she stole my mother and wanted me to work for her for the rest of my life. I was kicked and punched, but my mother hugged her and softly told her not to look. She didn't even look at me. In order to fight back, I bit my lip and didn't scream. Then I heard her say to my mother in a soft voice, "It's Daiwa. Wet nurse, tell them to stop." She actually knew me, and could even call out my name. My mother sent people to bring me up. My body was dirty, but she didn't mind at all. She pulled me to eat and circled me like a bee. But I disliked her even more. Perhaps it was because my rebellious phase was relatively early, but when she was annoyed, I pushed her. She was only 5 years old at the time. My push caused her to fall to the ground. Then, she looked at me with a wronged and innocent expression. At the time, I should have felt a little guilty. But when I thought about how everything I was going through was because of her, that bit of guilt disappeared without a trace. In the end, my mother slapped me and punished me to kneel in the ancestral hall. At the time, I couldn't understand this matter at all. She was clearly my mother, so why did she hit me for someone else? It was late autumn at the time. I knelt alone in the ancestral hall, and thought about this question over and over again, but I couldn't figure it out. I didn't expect her to sneak in. Her small body was hugging a quilt that was big enough to drown her, and her small face was red from the cold. She told me a lot, but I can't remember any of it. I only remember hugging her and huddling under the blanket to keep each other warm. That morning, my mother brought some people to look for her. In the end, she found her at my place and wanted to punish her on the spot. However, she stopped my mother and said that if she wanted to hit her, she could hit her. In the end, the matter was left unsettled. Ever since that day, I have been by her side. At that time, she was very cute. She was soft and squishy, and her words were soft and crisp, with the innocence of a child. At first, I was a little reluctant, but after getting along with her for a long time, I had long forgotten that I had once made a childish vow that I would rather die than serve her. Only after following her did I realize that what she had to learn far exceeded what I had to learn. But every time, she would obediently finish her studies. She would always work hard to finish her homework, and take me out to play. After a long time, the people in the residence knew that she liked me, and their attitude towards me became much more polite. Only then did I realize how much her affection meant to them. It was a snowy day when my mother came to talk to me. It was a very heavy snowfall. I still remember my mother's expression. It was solemn and filled with heartache. She said, "Child, the little mistress has the entire June family on her shoulders. It isn't easy for her. It is an honor and a responsibility for you to be by her side. You have to treat her well, respect her, and protect her." It was snowing heavily outside the house. My mother talked endlessly for a long time. In the end, she hugged me and cried bitterly, saying that she was sorry. But if she didn't do this, the June family would be finished. Only when the little mistress was well would they be well. I don't know how I walked out of my mother's room. I only know that when I walked out of the room, I saw her standing not too far away, her little face red as she waited for me. When she saw me come out, she immediately smiled. In the vast expanse of snow, her smile seemed to be dyed with the brightest color. It was so bright that it made my eyes ache. It was as if a warm current flowed through my heart, dispelling the bone-piercing cold of winter. From then on, I went to school with her, learning those unfamiliar and difficult things together. Every time I didn't understand something, she would patiently teach me. In the 3rd year, Inyu was sent over. Inyu was younger than both of us. When she was sent over, she had a timid expression on her face. At that time, I didn't understand how such a person could stay by her side. Later, I learned that Inyu was a fast learner, and had practiced martial arts since she was young. At first, she was a little shy, but after getting to know her better, I discovered that Inyu was a very lively girl. From then on, The three of us formed a small group. Before she turned 13, her personality was still very gentle. In the summer when she turned 13, she and the former Prime Minister talked for an entire night in the study. When she came out, her eyes were red and she hugged me and Ingyu and cried for a long time. We asked her, but she didn't say anything. But from then on, her personality became more and more stable. It was hard to guess her emotions from her face. She didn't say what she liked or cared about, and she wasn't picky about food. I don't know when, but the number of people serving her decreased. In the end, only Ingyu and I were left. Even my mother didn't appear. When she was 15, the former Prime Minister suddenly passed away. At that time, I understood that when she turned 13, she probably knew that her mother didn't have much time left. She should take on the responsibility of the Jun family. As it turned out, she did very well. Many times, I thought that I would accompany her for the rest of my life, laugh with her, grieve with her. But one day, a man appeared by her side. Only then did I understand that we weren't the only ones by her side. She should have someone she liked. That person should laugh with her, grieve with her, and grow old with her. I didn't expect her to leave the imperial court. That position was clearly within her reach, but she gave it up. For a long time, I didn't understand, just like how I didn't understand why my mother slapped me back then. Many years later, I realized that she probably never liked that kind of life. But she had no choice. For the sake of the Jun family and the hundreds and thousands of family members, she had no choice but to bear that burden. Now that she had the ability, she could escape unscathed. She had arranged the Jun family's future path properly. The life she chose was the best for her. No matter what kind of life she lived, Ingyu and I would accompany her. Dayu, what are you thinking? Your Gusu ran off to Sir Lingyu's place again. If you don't go, Her Excellency will chop him to death. Ingyu popped out of nowhere, giving me a fright. I helplessly held my forehead. Gusu. I don't know how he became my family's youth. Hurry and go. Seeing that I didn't move, Ingyu grabbed my hand and ran outside. It's not that I want to nag you, but can't you talk to him properly? Her Excellency doesn't like him getting too close to Sir Lingyu. I also know that Her Excellency doesn't like him getting close to Sir Lingyu, but what can I do? Good morning. Chapter 337. After bringing Gusu back from Darren, I only wanted to tie him up. But he looked at me pitifully. Dayu, what right does she have to monopolize Senior? Me. Because Sir Lingyu is Her Excellency's official husband. I wrung the handkerchief dry and walked over to him, wiping his face. Her Ladyship told you not to get too close to Sir Lingyu. Just stand there and talk to him. Why can't you remember? Why do you keep pouncing on him? Gusu felt even more wronged. But he's my senior brother. I didn't know how to respond. He had lived with Sir Lingyu since he was young, so it was normal for him to have a sense of dependence. I'd better keep an eye on him in the future, and not let him see Sir Lingyu. The days on the mountain were leisurely. Most of the time, they didn't know what time it was down there. When we received news from the Prime Minister's mansion that the Empress had passed away, Ingyu and I were surprised. Looking at the Empress's appearance, she should have no problem living for at least 10 more years. How could she be dead? Even though His Excellency has not been in court these past few years, His Excellency's power is still in the hands of the Jun family. These people are extremely loyal to the Jun family. His Excellency is probably the first person in history who has not been in court for several years, and is still sitting on the Prime Minister's throne. The Empress had passed away, and the Prime Minister naturally had to return to court. I packed my things and prepared to go down the mountain with my lord. Thinking that it would probably take a month or so for him to return, he couldn't help but worry about Gusu. I went to his room to look for him, and found him packing too. A few years had passed, and the youth from back then had grown into a handsome man. It was probably because he had been practicing martial arts all year round that he had an extraordinary heroic spirit. He was even more attractive than the men at the foot of the mountain. I was a little stunned. He had grown so big without me noticing. Dayu. I heard him call. Impudent. You should call me Sister Dayu. I came back to my senses and walked in. Why are you packing your things? He cleverly avoided the first question and directly answered the second one. I'm going down the mountain with you. Senior brother has already agreed. Even after so many years, he was still so attached to Sir Lingyu. Moreover, he had trained hard so that he knew how to fight back when the adults wanted to chop him. Every time, Darren would be so angry that he stomped his feet. Let's go down. Who knew what would happen? I wanted to persuade him not to go, but looking at his expectant eyes, I didn't say anything. Her Excellency and Sir Lingyu went their own way as usual, spreading dog food all the way. Ingyu complained at the side, causing Gusu to quarrel with her. In the past, his life had been tense and fulfilling, but now he felt that such a life was not bad. Although Darren hasn't been in court for a few years, his prestige hasn't decreased at all. Everything went smoothly. The new empress was the third child of the empress. In the past, she didn't have much of a presence. Unexpectedly, she was the last one to ascend the throne. Dayu, today is the Qiqiao festival. Senior brother went out with her. Let's secretly follow them. Gusu rushed over and grabbed my hand with an anxious look on his face. Milord and Sir Lingyu go to the Three-Life Tree every year during the begging festival. What are we going to do there? My voice trailed off towards the end. He glanced at Gusu from the corner of his eyes. The trembling youth that she had held in her arms all those years ago had already grown so big. Senior brother didn't take me there in the past. Take me there. Gusu shook my hand and acted like a spoiled child. She probably wasn't acting coquettishly. It was just my imagination. I sighed. If Sir finds out, he'll kill me. No. We'll just take a look from afar. I had no choice but to bring him out. The Qiqiao festival was very lively every year. I followed the crowd and brought Gusu to the Three-Life Tree. From afar, I could see Milord and Sir Lingyu standing under the Three-Life Tree. Sir Lingyu seemed to be looking for something while Milord dragged him away. I watched them. I didn't even know when Gusu had left or returned. He waved a wooden tablet in front of me. I looked at him in surprise. It was too dark for me to see his expression, but I could hear his voice. I heard that lovers who make a wish under the Three-Life Tree can grow old together. Do you want to try? At that moment, I seemed to hear my heart thumping. The seed that I had buried time and time again grew into a towering tree, its branches wrapping around my heart. If you don't want to, then forget it. Gusu suddenly put the wooden tablet away and turned to leave. I tugged on his arm. I want to. Gusu turned back. Fireworks suddenly bloomed above his head. They weren't very pretty, but they seemed to become more beautiful as they bloomed in his dark eyes. I once asked Milord what was the most sincere thing to write on the Three-Life Tree. She said, names. There's no need for extra words. Just put their names together, and that's enough. When our names were engraved on the wooden tablet, I suddenly understood why Milord insisted on giving Sir Lingyu the best, unwilling to let him suffer the slightest grievance. Dayu. I turned back. Gusu's handsome face suddenly enlarged in my eyes. Before I could react, his lips covered mine. When did he stop calling me Dayu Ejijia? It's been so long, every time I said it, he would change the topic. I actually didn't notice. Inoue and Milord didn't seem surprised that Gusu and I were together, their expressions saying that it should have been like this from the start. Milord's expression was even richer. I interpreted it to mean something along the lines of, I can finally marry off this idiot, so he won't bother my wife anymore. In order to prevent Gusu from bothering Lingyu, Milord directly prepared their wedding at the Prime Minister's residence. I didn't expect Milord to bring my mother here. I hadn't seen her for many years. Ever since the previous Prime Minister passed away, she left the Prime Minister's residence and went to a farm in the countryside. She was already old. Mother. I kowtowed heavily to her. Good. Mother's wrinkled face bloomed into a smile, but there were tears at the corners of her eyes. Gusu stood beside me, a little nervous. He followed my example and kowtowed to Mother. Mother. Mother seemed to be unable to control herself and began to sob quietly. After a long while, she finally said, Mother is very happy to see you get married. She took out a brocade box from her sleeve and beckoned Gusu over. Gusu glanced at me. Seeing me nod, he got up and walked over. Mother opened the box, revealing a jade pendant. She solemnly handed it to Gusu. I'll have to trouble you to take care of her in the future. I will, Gusu answered seriously. I couldn't help but laugh. I really wanted to ask him. Who's taking care of who? The wedding wasn't simple, but rather grand. In the main hall, Mother sat at the head of the table, looking at her and Gusu with a kind expression. Mother originally wanted Milord to sit there as well, but Milord refused. She didn't give a reason and only refused expressionlessly. Mother didn't dare to say anything else. The master of ceremonies spoke. First bow to the heavens and earth. Second bow to the parents. Husband and wife bow to each other. Asterisk thank you to the cherub who tipped me for feeding me. Kneeling and asking for rewards over 2000 t-carat hashtag love grows after a long time hashtag please vote, vote, vote. Chapter 338. Shisheng lived on that plane until she was over 60 years old. Lingyu left before her. Back in the system space, Shisheng immediately drew his sword. Slashed the screen. There was only one screen in the system space and nothing else. After the Shisheng was done, he sat down on the ground and stared blankly. The system was so scared that it didn't dare to speak for a long time. Why was the host's temper becoming more and more unpredictable? Host, Shisheng turned to look at the undamaged screen. I want to see your master. Motherf asterisk Kerr, what's the point of hiding behind the system? If you have the ability, come out and fight me face to face. Host, this system really can't take your words coming out of nowhere like this. The system was silent for a long time. I'm sorry, host. You can't meet my master yet. The system finally answered. Reason? Don't want to see me? Was it fear or something else? Master said that I can't talk nonsense, can't talk nonsense, can't talk nonsense. Shisheng knocked on the screen with his iron sword. Is it broken? What kind of trash is this? You should have been sent to the recycling bin long ago. It's not broken. Master said that I can't talk nonsense with you, or I'll be exposed. The system swiftly displayed the information. Name Shisheng Prestige. 150000 HP. 35 points. 24,000 mission grade. B mission score. 93 hidden quest. Complete hidden mission reward. 2,000 points item list. Queen's Crown. Ghost King's Heart F asterisk CK. I deducted 4,000 karma points again. What did I do this time? After your death, the Jun family fell into chaos. It didn't take long for them to disappear in the torrent of history. Shisheng. Was this also her fault? I'm not convinced. Don't think you can spout nonsense just because you're a system. She could protect the Jun family for now, but she couldn't protect them forever. In the end, they had to work hard on their own. This is just the result. The cause is other consequences created by the Jun family, causing the plane to become unstable. Shisheng. What does that have to do with me? The system was silent for a while before saying. You didn't leave any children for the Jun family. Shisheng frowned. She did not deliberately not get pregnant, but she did not have children in several planes. This was not her fault. What was the meaning of throwing it at her? Anyway, it's all your fault. The system was being unreasonable. Are you sure you want to enter the next dimension? Initializing teleportation. F asterisk CK your grandpa. IF asterisk King wait. After sending off Shisheng, the system heaved a sigh of relief. It was really scared to death. The screen suddenly flickered a few times, and a blurred figure appeared on the screen. Master. There are some problems with Feng Xi's memory. Take care of it. Yes. No matter what she asks you in the future, don't answer her. Do you understand? Master. The system hesitated. You seem to be very afraid of her. The screen was silent for a while. You'll know what kind of person she is and what kind of abilities she has in the future. It's useless for me to tell you this now. Wasn't he just an arrogant and unbridled person who had his own bug? If she's so powerful, why is she still doing missions? Judging from her master's tone, it seemed that she could even leave on her own. She probably didn't leave before because it was fun. Now she's doing it for Feng Xi. We have to make her completely fall in love with Feng Xi. The voice became more serious. Ah, she doesn't love Feng Xiai now? She's spoiling him so much. The other side sneered. What do you think she's raising now? Raising? Pet? She likes him, but love. I don't think she's already in love with him. It's just a possessive feeling. You have to be patient when dealing with her. But they didn't have much time, master. If they failed, they wouldn't have a chance to find a second host. She really didn't understand why her master chose such a tough nut to crack. She's special. The screen flickered, and the figure disappeared, returning to Shi Sheng's information page. Our homeroom teacher is on leave because she's pregnant. I wonder who's taking our class. Please don't let it be that Mediterranean guy. Listening to his class is like hypnosis. Shi Sheng could hear the chattering in her ears. She took a while to open her eyes. She was lying on the table. Her arms were a little numb from being pressed down for a long time. She looked around. It was a classroom. It was probably break time, so the students were gathered in twos and threes. They were all young, around 13 or 14 years old. They were full of youthful energy. The classroom was huge, and it was filled with desks. It seemed like a normal school, not an aristocratic one. I saw the principal with a woman the other day. She was so pretty. Really? The students' topics always changed quickly. While she was looking around the classroom, the girls in front of her had already changed the topic from the homeroom teacher to the principal. Shengxia. The girl in front of her saw Shi Sheng looking around and yelled, "Did you sleep too much? Don't you know where you are?" The other girls laughed, but they didn't mean much. "You sleep all day. What did you do at night?" Shi Sheng. "How would I know what she did?" All right. Look at her. She's in a daze. Go back to sleep. We'll wake you up after the next self-study period. A girl in front of her pressed Shi Sheng's head onto the table. Shi Sheng's head hit the table. Fortunately, she was cushioned by a book, so she didn't hit her head. Shi Sheng didn't look up and started reading the plot. This was a revenge story about rebirth. The female lead, Shen Jiayin, was killed by a scumbag in AB*TCH. She was reborn 10 years ago. She unlocked the mysterious treasure eye, appraised treasures, gambled on stones, started a company, dabbled in the underworld, fell in love with the mysterious male lead, slapped her enemies in the face, dealt with her terrible relatives, unraveled the mystery of her birth, and reached the peak of her life. There was no abuse in the story. It was a perfect mother. The original Shengxia's parents passed away. They left behind an inheritance that was enough for the original Shengxia to spend in a few lifetimes. She was adopted by her parents' best friend. In her previous life, the female lead and Shengxia had crossed paths, but they didn't get along. They didn't like each other, but they didn't have a deep hatred for each other. Before the female lead died, she met Shengxia in an alley of a bar. At that time, the female lead was being defiled. She asked Shengxia for help. Shengxia was on the phone. When she heard the noise, she glanced over. It was too dark, so she couldn't see clearly. It was noisy on the other side of the phone, so she didn't look over and just left. The female lead was defiled to death. After she was reborn, she hated the original Shengxia. The female lead said that her previous life was a thing of the past, and that the original Shengxia wasn't the one who killed her. But every time she saw the original Shengxia, she would remember the helplessness and despair she felt when she died. She only needed to come over and take a look to save her. Deep down, she blamed the original Shengxia. When she was doing things, she unconsciously put the original Shengxia on the opposite side of the enemy. She put the original Shengxia in danger time and time again. In the end, the original Shengxia became mentally ill and committed suicide. Feng Xiai. You don't love me? Shi Sheng. Don't listen to his nonsense. You believe the words of a retard? Are you retarded? Chapter 339. This kind of cannon fodder female supporting lead's only wish was revenge. The host's wish was the same. The host didn't do anything wrong to the female lead. She and the female lead didn't see eye to eye, but she didn't do anything against her. The female lead hated the host because she didn't save her at that time. The host didn't have the ability to save her, But why did she save her? Was it because of the beauty of human nature? Which idiot would go and seek death when they saw several grown men assaulting a woman? Even some grown men couldn't do it, let alone a young girl like the host. What would have happened if she had gone? Moreover, the host didn't see the situation clearly. Life was like countless forks in the road, and each fork had an ending. What kind of ending you had was determined by what kind of path you chose to take. And what kind of path you chose was determined by whether the people around you would influence your choices. Life was filled with countless multiple-choice questions. The host's life had taken the worst path because of the female lead's interference. The female lead had been reborn for a while. She had just transferred to this school and was in the same class as the host. The host's memory of the female lead stopped at, it was a girl. It was already self-study. Shisheng raised his head and looked in the direction of the female lead. The female lead was sitting upright with her hair in a ponytail. Probably because she had been reborn, her temperament was very different from the other students. Shisheng propped up his chin and looked at the female lead unscrupulously. Perhaps sensing Shisheng's gaze, the female lead turned her head to look at him. She had a young and tender face. Her appearance was above average, but her temperament was very good. She was like an orchid in a pile of gaudy red flowers, clear and cold. Their gazes met. Shisheng's eyes were as calm as ever, without any ripples. The female lead frowned slightly, and a slight expression of disdain appeared on her face. Then she turned her head and continued to read the book in her hand. Shisheng blinked. Was the female lead looking down on the host just now? What was she looking down on? Shisheng looked away and flipped through the host's desk. The first thing he saw was a full-score math test. Shisheng flipped through the host's other test papers and clicked his tongue. The host was a top student. Some people were probably born to learn. Their brains worked faster than others, and they could maintain first place by just casually learning. The host was such a person. She was such a smart child, yet the female lead made her end up like that. He didn't know if it was because the female lead's halo was too strong, or because the supporting female lead's IQ dropped too quickly. Ding-ling-ling, when the bell rang, the students all around ran out of the classroom like sheep out of a pen. Junior high school. It was the time of innocence. Shengxia, let's go. Why are you still in a daze? Someone knocked on the table. The girl who had told her to call her after school stood in front of her. The girl's information immediately popped up in Shisheng's head. Yao Qin and the original host were friends, but they were just ordinary friends, not heart-to-heart. Usually, after school, Yao Qin and the other two girls in front of her would walk with the original owner. Oh, Shisheng responded. He pushed the things on the table under the table, grabbed the backpack behind the chair, and got up to follow Yao Qin out of the classroom. These girls were really noisy. Shisheng followed them from the classroom to the school gate. He had already decided that he would never walk with them again. It was scarier than 3,000 ducks. See you tomorrow. Yao Qin waved at Shisheng. Shisheng waved lazily, and heaved a sigh of relief. He had finally sent 3,000 ducks away. This was just an ordinary school, and the concept of money was still limited to who had a car. People had to squeeze into public transport or walk home. Moreover, in this era, smartphones had yet to appear. Cell phones were just being used, and most people used landlines. Most people couldn't afford to use computers. Students didn't spend their days playing games in the virtual world. After school, except for those who wanted to go out to play, most people chose to go home. Shisheng stood at the door and yawned. When he narrowed his eyes, he saw Shen Jiaoyin coming out of the school gate. She seemed to have seen Shisheng as well. Her expression was the same as before. Shisheng put his hands on his hips. What was she so disdainful about? Shen Jiaoyin didn't stop and left the school gate. Shisheng flung his backpack and walked towards the bus stop. The original owner was staying at her uncle's house. He was a good friend of her parents and the uncle who had adopted her, Guyen. When Shisheng returned home, he happened to see a woman coming out of the house. Her high heels clicked loudly on the ground. It was obvious that she was using a lot of strength. She was pulling a suitcase. Jinx! The woman scolded angrily when she passed by Shisheng. You're crazy, Shisheng immediately replied. What did you say? The woman was about to go over, but turned back when she heard Shisheng's words. Shisheng's eyes curved. I said you're crazy. Silly girl, you're rebelling. The woman was enraged and reached out to pinch Shisheng's face. Zhao Qian, what are you doing? A loud shout came from behind. Zhao Qian's hand froze in midair. She turned her head and saw a tall figure walking towards them. He had regular features, sharp eyebrows, bright eyes, and a fierce aura. His footsteps were steady and powerful. He must have been trained. Guyan walked to Shisheng's side and shielded her behind him. She's still a child. Zhao Qian, where's your upbringing? Zhao Qian was so angry that she laughed. Upbringing? Didn't you hear her scolding me just now? Guyan frowned. She's young and immature. You're being so calculative with her. All right, Guyan. I've already broken up with you. You can continue to spoil this girl. She'll be spoiled rotten by you sooner or later. Let's see how you'll deal with it then. Don't blame me for not reminding you. She's not your child. Don't be so devoted to her. Who knows if you'll raise an ingrate. You're on your own. Zhao Qian dragged her suitcase and left in her high heels. Shisheng looked at Zhao Qian's back calmly while Guyan furrowed his brows. Guyan turned around and looked at Shisheng. His tone was stern. Why did you scold her just now? She broke up with you. Shisheng grabbed his bag and walked into the house. Guyan was speechless. Why did he feel that there was something wrong with this girl? Just as he was feeling puzzled, he heard her voice. Isn't there something wrong with her to give up on such a good man like you? Zhao Qian was Guyan's girlfriend. They had been together for almost 7 to 8 years and had gone through a lot together. However, they had often argued about how to treat the original owner of the body. They had been together for so many years and were supposed to get married at the end of the year. However, Guyan had encountered some problems with his business recently, and Zhao Qian had broken up with him without hesitation. They had argued several times before, and the original owner of the body had been afraid to go home recently. Zhao Qian would always use the original owner of the body as an excuse. Guyan watched as Shisheng's back disappeared through the door. His anger and depression seemed to have dissipated a little. He strode in with his long legs and said to Shisheng, who was about to enter the house, "Let's go out for dinner tonight." Asterisk little fairy. Someone serve the pickled vegetables. Bah. Serve the food. Chapter 340. Guyan took Shisheng to the original owner's favorite restaurant. However, Shisheng didn't like it. The atmosphere and decorations were a bit depressing. But thinking that meal ticket had just fallen out of love, Shisheng was considerate and didn't ask for anything. Of course, it was also possible that she was too lazy to leave. Xiaoxia, you've been here for 4 years. Guyan didn't know why he brought up this topic. Shisheng looked up. The man opposite him lowered his head and frowned. Yes. For years. She was 10 when the original owner's parents passed away. Guyan fell silent. His lowered eyes fell on the cutlery in front of him. Shisheng retracted her gaze and started eating. She would be starving if she skipped a meal. Nothing was more important than filling her stomach. Xiaoxia, you'll be 15 after today, the man opposite him suddenly said. Shisheng was stunned. He tried hard to remember that tomorrow was the original owner's birthday. You can inherit the things your parents left you in cash when you're 16. There's 30,000 in this card. Spend it wisely and it should be enough for a year. Before Shisheng could answer, Guyan pushed a card over. Shisheng. Was meal ticket going to run away? Uncle Gu, what do you mean? Shisheng put down his chopsticks and stared at Guyan. Guyan didn't look at Shisheng. He just covered his face with his hands and said in a muffled voice, "My company has some problems. I don't know. I promised your father that I would take good care of you, but this is all I can do now." Even if he didn't tell her now, she would find out in the future. By then, she would be alone and helpless. It was better to let her know early so that she could be mentally prepared. Has your company collapsed? Guyan shook his head. No. It hadn't collapsed yet, but once the capital chain collapsed, it would be close. Is your company incurable? Guyan. He let go of his hands and looked at the girl opposite him. She hadn't fully grown yet, but he could already see her mother's glory. Uncle Gu. Why do you have to come to a conclusion so early? Opportunities are for those who are prepared and persevering. Gu Yan probably never thought that he would be lectured by a young girl one day. However, what she said was very reasonable, and he couldn't even refute her. After feeding Gu Yan chicken soup for the soul, Gu Yan threw the Shisheng onto the street. Shisheng was speechless. Long-term meal ticket, that's not right. Shisheng strolled home leisurely. When he passed by the antique street, he saw Xinjiaoyin at the entrance. She stood with a tall boy, and then another boy in a black sweater ran over from afar. The three of them entered the antique street together. The female lead has the ability to identify treasures. She probably came to the antique street to pick up scraps. Poser Sheng expressed, I do not have any tools to appraise treasures. Treasure hunting phone. It can lock onto treasures in all directions. Host, do you want one? It only costs 10,000 points. System. When did you learn how to advertise? 10,000 points? Why don't you just rob someone? There was something wrong with him. Other people's systems could earn points very easily, but it was harder than going to heaven for it to earn points. It was all because the host was too awesome. How about a discount? 5,000? 5,000? In your dreams, I only get 3,000 points per mission, and you took away nearly 2 mission points from me the moment you came up. Who asked you to not like to do side missions? Side missions are the right way to earn points. 3,000. Can't go any lower. Shisheng rolled his eyes. Was she bargaining with it? Shisheng walked toward the antique street. The antique street was always more lively at night than during the day. All kinds of people wandered on the street, hoping to pick up scraps and become rich overnight. Xinjiaoyin and the two boys didn't walk fast. Sometimes, Xinjiaoyin even stopped to take a look. Shisheng swaggered behind them and could occasionally hear Xinjiaoyin and the two boys talking. One of them was called Wen Jingxian, and the one in a black sweater was called Xie Chen. Both of them were supporting male characters, and both liked Xinjiaoyin. They must have just met Xinjiaoyin not long ago. Host, are you really not going to consider it? Don't you want to show off? 2,000 points. Last chance. 1,000. The system was silent for a while. In the end, it exchanged the item for Shisheng. Its host was so impressive that it couldn't afford to offend her. Of course, the most important thing was that the item wasn't worth much. Although 1,000 was a little low, it wasn't that low. Shisheng got a treasure hunting phone. It was similar to a smartphone. It could even be used to insert cards and had a full range of functions. Shisheng suspected that he had only exchanged for a phone. Among a bunch of strange apps, Shisheng found an app called Taobao. Shisheng. No matter how he looked at it, this was Ma Papa's Taobao. He clicked on the familiar interface of Taobao. Plain data collection in progress. A few big words popped up on the page. A few minutes later. Data collection successful. Welcome to Taobao. We hope you enjoy using it. Shisheng. What the hell was this? Shisheng flipped through the items. They looked very high-end. 1 hour worth of steamed buns, 1 yuan. Distance, 5 meters. 3 years worth of clothes, 30 yuan. Distance, 20 meters. 1 year worth of watch, 3 million yuan. Distance, 50 meters. 100 years worth of soil, unknown. Distance, 300 meters. 200 years worth of brick, unknown. Distance, 700 meters. Beggar's bowl, 0 yuan. Distance, 1,000 meters. Asterisk flips table asterisk. What the hell was this? System. If you continue to pirate like this, Papa Ma will sue you. Shisheng flipped through it for a long time before finally finding something that looked normal. 300 years worth of painting, 100,000 yuan. Distance, 2,000 meters. It only showed the year and some strange adjectives. At the end, it showed the estimated value and distance. There was no other introduction. The pictures were obviously photoshopped. Even if it was a brick or a broken bowl used by a beggar, it still looked like an exquisite exhibit in a museum. Very good. This was very suitable for Ma Papa's Taobao. Moreover, this thing had a distance. It couldn't be more than 3,000 meters. As long as it was an item such as clothes, food, and toys, it could be displayed, no matter what era it was. It was amazing. This app was amazing. My papa was so weak. Shisheng took the phone and ran excitedly to a bigger antique shop. The items on the app were refreshed. One by one, exquisite porcelain with special effects appeared. The name was at the front, and the price was at the back. Some were only worth a few hundred yuan, while others were worth millions. He didn't see anything worth millions. Shisheng. Do you want to drink chicken soup? Shisheng brand. It's natural and harmless. Little fairy. What will happen if you drink it? Shisheng. Smile, you'll go to heaven if you drink it. Little fairy. Feng Xiai, come quickly. Your Shisheng wants to poison his mother. Feng Xiai, very good. This is very Shisheng. Little fairy. Cherub, come to my rescue. These two bastards are going to rebel. Shisheng. Those who don't vote, come drink chicken soup. You'll go to heaven in minutes. No return tickets. Chapter 341. Is this an authentic antique? Of course. Don't worry, sir. Everything in our shop has been appraised. It's absolutely authentic. Shisheng tilted his head and saw an old man talking to the shop owner. The shop owner was holding an ornament in his hand. Shisheng looked at it for a long time, but couldn't figure out what it was. She lowered her head and searched through a row of gorgeous objects. Finally, she found the ornament. It was a 30-year-old bronze object worth 1,000 yuan. It was 10 meters away. 30 years old? Then it must be fake. This is 300 years old, sir. The shop owner was still bragging. Shisheng watched the old man swipe the money with his card. He didn't say a word. Perhaps it was because Shisheng's eyes were too direct. The shop owner glanced at her. He was even more curious when he saw the strange object in her hand. He handed the old man over to the person next to him and strode over to Shisheng. The shop owner was a shrewd middle-aged man. Because he sold antiques, he was dressed in a traditional Chinese style. Young lady, are you interested in antiques? Although he was talking to Shisheng, his eyes were fixed on Shisheng's hand. Shisheng had pressed the standby button when he came over. All he saw was a black screen. Not interested. Shisheng shook his head. The shop owner smiled. It's late. Young lady, you should go home. Shisheng looked in the direction of the old man and gave the shop owner a strange smile. How much did you sell it to him? Does it feel good to get something for nothing? The shop owner's face changed slightly, but he quickly calmed down. Young lady, what are you talking about? Well, it's okay if you don't understand. Shisheng put his phone back into his trouser pocket. Don't worry. I won't poke my nose into other people's business. It's his business if he can't tell the authenticity of the antiques. He deserves to spend money for nothing. It's not easy to make money. The shop owner heaved a sigh of relief. He didn't expect the young lady to be so understanding. But before he could relax, he heard the young lady say, "But it's not good to do too many bad things. Be careful." Shisheng waved at the boss and walked towards the door. The boss stared at her back for a few seconds and felt a little strange. This little girl looked like she was in her teens, but why did she speak like an old man? There was something wrong with him. When Shisheng came out of the antique shop, he realized that he was following the female lead. He looked around blankly at the people coming and going, but the female lead was nowhere to be seen. Shisheng scratched his head. Forget it, I'll just go back to sleep. In the following days, Shisheng went to school and went home. His route was fixed. In this day and age, there was no place to do it even if you wanted to. The female lead was also quite quiet. She probably knew that she shouldn't be too ostentatious in her current situation. However, seeing that the female lead's clothes were getting better and better, she knew that she had secretly made a lot of money. Shisheng was playing games on his phone in his seat. Well, her Taobao phone came with a game, although it was just a game. Why does Shunjian look like a different person recently? She's so much prettier. What he's wearing has changed too. Did your family win the lottery? Yao Qin and the rest were gossiping again. They weren't as dirty as they would be in the future. They wouldn't think that someone was a mistress just because they were well-dressed. Shisheng's lips curled into a smile as she lowered her head to continue playing. Shengxia, where did you buy this game console? The graphics are so clear. At some point, Yao Qin had turned her head and happened to see Shisheng's screen. Why can it be more direct? It's so advanced. Yao Qin's voice immediately attracted the attention of many people. Shen Jiayin looked over and only saw the crowded seats. She couldn't see what was going on inside. She lowered her eyes to hide the disdain in them. Shisheng saw that more and more people were crowding around him. He put away his phone in frustration and lay down on the table to sleep. Shengxia, can you lend me your game console to play? Shengxia, I beg you, lend it to me to play with. They had never seen a game console that could be used directly and were very curious. Shisheng covered his ears. These people surrounded him for a while and could only disperse when he didn't respond. Some people muttered that he was stingy. But at that time, electronic devices were not very common, and owning a game console was something to brag about. They understood that it was normal for him not to lend it to them. However, they had never seen a game console that could be used with such good graphics and could be used directly. This episode passed quickly. The students' attention was always diverted quickly. I heard that the new form teacher is coming today. I wonder if it's a man or a woman. I don't care. I don't want to go to class. I'm going to throw up if the form teacher next door comes. Luckily, it's over today. Oh right, their form teacher had applied for pregnancy leave and the form teacher next door had been substituting for her. Yesterday, the substitute teacher had said that the new form teacher would be coming today. Shisheng didn't care whether the form teacher was changed or not. She planned to be a bad student anyway. Pretentious Sheng expressed that she couldn't be bothered to write the middle school lessons. The bell rang and the classroom immediately quieted down. Everyone heard the news and looked at the classroom door. Footsteps sounded in the quiet corridor. A man in a white shirt and suit pants appeared at the door. There was a collective gasp in the classroom. So handsome. No matter what era it was, a good-looking face was definitely a good tool for showing off. Shisheng raised his head and looked at the door. He frowned and turned to look in Shen Jiayin's direction. Shen Jiayin looked surprised. Her brows were tightly knitted and her body was tense. It was obvious that the female lead was on her guard. The man put one hand in his pocket and walked up to the podium. He wrote 2 words on the blackboard with a piece of chalk and turned around. There was a devilish smile on his handsome face. Hello everyone. I mean Mo. From today onwards, I'll be your form teacher. Does everyone welcome me? Welcome. There was a round of applause in the classroom. This form teacher is so handsome. I'll pay attention in class in the future. It's a waste of talent to be a teacher. He should be a celebrity. Shisheng looked at Mo and Shen Jiayin exchanging glances, and held his forehead helplessly. The male lead was chasing his wife all the way to school. He had the demeanor of a male lead CEO. Mo had a powerful background. At first, he was attracted to the female lead's ability. Although he often flirted with the female lead, he didn't fall in love at first sight. After they went through many things, the male lead realized that he had fallen in love with the female lead. Then he confessed to her, and the two of them naturally got together. Now at this time, the male lead was probably still attracted to the female lead's ability. After all, the female lead was still young. Shisheng touched his chin as if he was sizing up a product, and looked at the male lead thoughtfully. As a top student who graduated from a famous foreign school, it was a waste of talent to let the male lead teach a brat in middle school. The era could be applied to the 2001 to 2004 era. But the background was definitely fake. Don't take it seriously. The antiques were all fabricated. Don't find fault with them. I wonder if the Taobao app meme is useful _ if someone uses it. Don't hit me, I really don't know. Chapter 342. Mo's appearance was well received by the students among the older teachers. Many students expressed that they wanted such a handsome form teacher too, since their form teacher didn't apply for pregnancy leave. With such a handsome form teacher, Mom doesn't have to worry that I don't like to study anymore. The first thing Mo did was a quiz to understand everyone's results. Shisheng took the test paper and flipped through it before picking up a pen and starting to write. When the results were announced, everyone was stunned. Brainiac, how did you end up in 45th place? Shin Jiayin also looked over at Shi Sheng with a strange gaze. But he didn't care at all. He took out a book from his desk and started reading. Those close to him could see the words on the cover. They were all in English and couldn't understand. The realm of a genius isn't something ordinary people like us can understand. Inemo obviously didn't care about Shi Sheng. He only cared about Shin Jiayin. Shin Jiayin's results used to be average, but she made it to the top 10 in this quiz. Shin Jiayin knew that this man was very impressive. She clenched her hands tightly under the desk and her heart was in her throat. Inemo looked at Shin Jiayin meaningfully before taking out his textbook. Students, turn to page 136. During the break, Shi Sheng went to the school's canteen to sell water. In order to take a shortcut, they went to a place with fewer people. When they passed by the school's flower bed, they were lucky enough to see the male and female lead having a private meeting. Their posture, it was a little thought-provoking. Inemo grabbed Shin Jiayin's wrist and placed one hand on her waist. He held her in his arms and looked down at her. Inemo let go. Shin Jiayin struggled. Perhaps because she didn't use much strength, the effect was minimal. Their posture became even more intimate. Inemo blew into Shin Jiayin's ear. Miss Shin, we've done more intimate things before. Why are you so nervous? Shin Jiayin was so angry that her face turned red. Hooligan, I shouldn't have saved you that day out of kindness. Ha ha ha, there's no medicine for regret in this world. Shi Sheng looked at the male and female lead exchanging feelings, and thought about what position she should use to break up the couple. He was the pretentious Sheng who wanted to break up the couple. Shin Jiayin was killed in her previous life, so she was very wary in this life. Inemo wasn't someone who could easily trust others. Two people who were equally guarded could only be honest with each other after going through life and death together. Then let's not let them live and die together. Shi Sheng recalled the plot, picked out a few important parts, and then turned to leave. After buying the water, Shin Jiayin was already in the classroom. Her face was still a little red, and she was rubbing her wrist. Her gaze was unfocused, and no one knew what she was thinking. Shengxia, the class teacher was looking for you. Yao Qin saw that Shi Sheng had returned and immediately sent her a message. Why are you looking for me? I didn't think they saw me just now. Nothing good would come out of the male lead's appearance. She wouldn't go. Shi Sheng's central thought was that he should never do anything that was not good. Eliminate all possible dangers. I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with you. Yao Qin glanced at the test papers on Shi Sheng's desk. His meaning was clear. In the past, she had always been in first place. This time, she had slipped to 45th place. It was normal for the homeroom teacher to talk to her. Shengxia, is there something wrong with you? Why did your results drop so much this time? Yao Qin turned around and came face to face with Shi Sheng. Shi Sheng took out the test papers and handed them to Yao Qin. Yao Qin looked at her suspiciously and took the test papers hesitantly. The test papers were very neat, because there weren't many words on it. But all the questions she had written were correct. The total score of all the questions was 38. Yao Qin. She was a top student. For some reason, she felt that this number was very ironic. Was it her imagination? Shi Sheng didn't look for Inemo, and Inemo didn't call her either. It was as if Inemo was calling her to complete a mission, and it didn't matter whether she went or not. When Shi Sheng came, it was almost the end of the semester. The relationship between Shin Jiayin and Inemo was still at the stage where one was wary of the other, and the other was testing the other. Once the final exams were over, Shi Sheng couldn't wait to leave the school. On the way home, Shi Sheng rarely saw Gu Yan, who had been so busy recently. You're back. Gu Yan was wearing an apron and holding a spatula with a smile on his face. Go wash your hands. The food will be ready soon. Shi Sheng looked at the table. It was all the food that the original owner liked to eat. Uncle Gu, why are you back? Aren't you busy at the company? Shi Sheng went to the kitchen to wash his hands. Gu Yan was still boiling soup. Hearing her question, Gu Yan smiled and replied, I'm busy. But your final exams are over, so I have to celebrate with you. Gu Yan squeezed out this little bit of time. He had to leave after dinner. Oh, meal ticket was really busy. How did you do? Gu Yan took out a bowl of soup and said confidently, "With your results, you should have no problem getting first place." Shisheng paused in the middle of wiping his hands. "I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you." She only filled in the simple questions for all the papers. She directly handed in the blank papers for the political and history papers, which required a lot of writing. Gu Yan was probably reassured by the original owner's results, so he didn't continue asking. After eating with Shisheng, he left in a hurry. When the results were announced, Gu Yan received a call from the school. How could a student with such good grades fall to such a low level in such a short time? Gu Yan had no choice but to take some time out to go home and find Shisheng. Shisheng was in a daze when he heard someone knocking on the door. He pulled the quilt and got out of bed. He stuttered for a while before opening the door. Gu Yan stood outside with a dark expression on his face. He was surrounded by a gloomy aura. Shisheng instantly woke up. "Uncle Gu, did the school announce the results?" "Gu Yan, was this child a roundworm in his stomach? How could he know that the school had announced the results before he even said anything?" Shisheng scratched his head and said in a nasal voice, "I'm too lazy to write those long essays. My grades are completely fine. Uncle Gu, don't worry." "Gu Yan." Gu Yan looked at Shisheng and sighed. He said earnestly, "I don't want your grades to be good. I can support you, but what will I do when I'm old? You need to have a skill so that when you get married, your husband's family won't be able to take advantage of you." Shisheng. "Uncle, you're thinking too far ahead." Gu Yan probably felt that he had said too much. He coughed and said, "Since you say that your grades are fine, I believe you." Gu Yan didn't believe him at all when he thought of the terrible results. But he couldn't be fierce to this child. It was said that one shouldn't hit other people's children. This saying was absolutely true. If this was his own child, he would have hit him long ago. Gu Yan told Shisheng to study hard at home, and hurried back to the company. However, he kept thinking about this matter. He didn't have much time to control her. He couldn't let her go astray. Thank you to Cherub who tipped me, please vote. Chapter 343. 3 days later. Gu Yan suddenly called her out for a meal. Shisheng didn't want to go, but Gu Yan said it was an important meal, so she could only change her clothes and go out. The sky outside was overcast, probably about to rain. Shisheng flagged down a taxi and told the driver the name of the restaurant. When she arrived, she discovered that there was an antique auction going on. Gu Yan was waiting for her outside. When he saw her get out of the car, he waved at her. Hidden mission. The Lost Youth. Hint. This mission is a chain mission. Shisheng. Another F*King chain mission? I don't want it. And what the hell is the Lost Youth? Aren't you going to use your high and mighty idiom? Hidden mission. Shisheng took a deep breath. Mission target Yujio. Yujio? Damn. This person had left quite a deep impression in the original owner's memories. The reason? Because the original owner was afraid of him. Yujio and Shengxia were childhood sweethearts, and their families were family friends. But when Shengxia was 7, Yujio left the country. Shengxia didn't know the reason back then, but later found out it was because Yujio's mother committed suicide. Yujio liked to bully Shengxia since they were young, but Shengxia couldn't complain when he bullied her, so she was afraid of Yujio. It had been 8 years since Yujio left the country. Gu Yan brought Shisheng in. There were people coming and going, and it was very lively. Gu Yan took Shisheng directly to the elevator, which stopped on the 10th floor. "Do you still remember your uncle Yu?" Gu Yan asked Shisheng softly as they got out of the elevator. Shisheng's gaze wandered around casually. "They just came back not long ago. They only contacted me today, so I know." Gu Yan couldn't continue, so he brought Shisheng into a private room. The private room was very large. Shisheng immediately saw the boy sitting on the sofa with his head lowered. He crossed his legs casually, and his hair was a little long, covering his eyes. "Xiaoxia, you've already grown so big." Before Shisheng could finish sizing her up, the man sitting on the table stood up and gave Shisheng a bear hug without giving her any chance to explain. Cough, cough, cough. Shisheng choked on his saliva. F***, can't you give me a buffer? Yu Xingyan let go of the Shisheng. What's wrong? Why are you coughing? Shisheng. He choked on his saliva. Shisheng waved his hand, and Gu Yan hurriedly handed him a glass of water. Shisheng took it and took a sip. Only when the liquid entered his mouth did he realize that something was amiss. F***ck your mother. That idiot poured white wine into the glass. The smell of alcohol sprayed out by the Shisheng immediately filled the air. Gu Yan hurriedly poured water from the kettle on the table. Why is there wine in this cup? Gu Yan frowned. In a hotel like this, there were rules regarding which cup to pour. It was impossible for the waiter to make a mistake. Shisheng drank some water to wash away the taste of alcohol in his mouth, and his face turned red. Yu Xingyun's face darkened. Yujio. He kicked the boy on the sofa. The boy had been hanging his head. Only now did Shisheng realize that he was sleeping. After being kicked, the boy raised his head slightly. His face immediately appeared in Shisheng's eyes. Shisheng could only use one word to describe him. Tender. If he wasn't handsome, then he was tender. That face was like a product that had been beautified countless times with special effects in future TV commercials. Yujio was 4 years older than the original Shisheng. He should be 19 now, but he only looked 15 or 16. He rubbed his head and asked in a muffled voice, "Why did you kick me? Was it you who poured the wine?" Yu Xingyun was furious. "You little rascal, bullying your little sister as soon as you come back. Stand up. What kind of person are you?" Yujio seemed to have been awakened and looked at Shisheng. Shisheng was still trying to catch his breath, and wasn't looking at him. All he saw was the girl's exquisite side profile. Her long eyelashes fluttered, her lips as pink as a peach, gently opened and closed. The curve of her neck was beautiful. "Did you hear me? Stand up." Yu Xingyun kicked him again. He hadn't used much strength before, but this time he used a lot of force. Yujio frowned from the kick, but he still stood up. "Apologized to little Xia." Yu Xingyun dragged Yujio over to Shisheng. When they were young, this rascal liked to tease little Xia. Even now he still liked to tease her. When he said little Xia was coming, this rascal stood by the table for a long time without the waiter coming in. If he wasn't the one who poured the wine, who else could it be? "Little sister little Xia, I'm sorry." Yujio obediently apologized. Shisheng thought he was hearing things. This villain was actually so obedient? There must be something fishy going on. She tilted her head and saw the boy looking at her with a smile. 2 dimples appeared on his cheeks, and his eyes were almost curved into slits. He clearly looked like a harmless and cute youth, but his smile was too hair-raising. Shisheng quivered. This villain was poisonous. She suddenly didn't want to confirm whether he was Feng Xi or not. She wanted to kill him. Her intuition was very accurate. This Yujio definitely wasn't as harmless as he looked. "Little Xia, are you feeling better?" Yu Xingyun carefully looked at Shisheng. "Look, it's all Uncle Yu's fault. I made you suffer as soon as I arrived. How about this? Let's go shopping in a bit. If you see anything you like, Uncle Yu will buy it for you. Little girls all like to buy things." Yu Xingyun felt that his decision was very wise. "Little Xia, are you okay?" Gu Yan looked at Shisheng nervously. "That was white wine." Although she didn't swallow it, just a sip was enough to make her feel uncomfortable. "I'm fine." Shisheng glanced at the smiling Yujio. It was decided that she'd give this guy a beating once they got out. In any case, she didn't know who he was right now, so she didn't feel any heartache. Only when Shisheng said it was fine did the 2 adults breathe a sigh of relief. Yu Xingyun invited Shisheng to sit down, and called the waiter in to take their order. Yu Xingyun originally wanted to let Shisheng order, but Yujio, who was sitting across from Shisheng, snatched the menu from him. "I remember all the dishes little sister little Xia likes. I'll order for little sister little Xia." Shisheng, now he wanted to beat him to death even more. When Yujio's order arrived, Shisheng's face turned green. What kind of food did the original Shisheng like to eat? She hated everything. Yujio picked up a bowl and sat down next to Shisheng. "Little sister little Xia, here, try this. I heard it's a specialty and it's delicious." "Little sister little Xia, this is delicious too." Shisheng grabbed his chopsticks. If it weren't for Gu Yan, he would have smashed the dish in Yu Jio's face long ago. Lu Qingyun, who was at the top of the blacklist, could step down now. Yu Xingyun and Gu Yan were chatting about the past few years. The atmosphere between them was heavy, so they didn't notice the commotion. Yu Jio kept picking up food for Shisheng. Little sister, little Xia, why aren't you eating? Are you on a diet? You look pretty skinny. Girls should eat more. You'll look better if you put on some weight. Big brother Yu Jio. Shisheng squeezed out a smile as he picked up the drink on the table. We haven't seen each other in so many years. Come, let me toast you. Yu Jio's voice trailed off as he looked at the drink in Shisheng's hand. It seemed this girl wasn't as afraid of him as before. 3 seconds later, Yu Jio accepted the drink from Shisheng. Since little sister little Xia is toasting me, I naturally have to drink. The glasses clinked against each other, emitting a crisp sound. Asterisk green plum meets wine. Yu Jio, this childhood sweetheart is poisonous, ha ha ha. You guys wanted to see Feng Xi chasing after his wife. I'm such a down-to-earth little fairy. Chapter 344. Across from them, Guyan glanced over. The young man and young woman were holding their drinks close to each other. Both had smiles on their faces, but he felt that there was something off about their smiles. It was as if whoever smiled the brighter would win. Yu Xingyun, on the other hand, was more oblivious and didn't notice anything amiss. These two kids are still so close. Guyan. He only felt that the atmosphere between the two was a little strange, but he couldn't tell how they were close. Back then, if it weren't for little Xia, might have been that rascal's fiancé. I won't go out in the future. I'll take care of little Xia with you. You've worked hard all these years. Yu Xingyun patted Gu Yan's shoulder. Gu Yan retracted his gaze. I owed brother Shengsheng a huge favor back then. No matter what, I have to take good care of his child. I'm not ungrateful. I'm a man. Oh right, I heard that your company ran into some problems. If you need any help, don't hesitate to ask. The most dangerous part has already passed. The two chatted from the past to the present and finally moved on to the company's development. Dad, Uncle Gu, I'll take little Xia out for a walk. Yu Jio suddenly stood up. Are you guys done eating? Gu Yan looked at Shisheng. We're done eating. Shisheng nodded. Then go ahead. Gu Yan nodded. Little Xia, there's an auction down below. Go take a look and see if there's anything you like. Yu Xingyun handed a card to Shisheng. If you see anything you like, just have that rascal buy it for you. Thank you, Uncle Yu. Shisheng accepted the card. Yu Xingyun turned back to his stern face. Rascal, take good care of your little sister little Xia. If she loses even a single strand of hair, I'll teach you a lesson when you come back. Yu Jio's expression was a little strange, as if he was enduring something. He nodded. Got it. Then he pulled Shisheng out. Once they were out of the private room, Shisheng flung Yu Jio aside. Sheng Xia, I haven't seen you in 8 years. Your temper has grown quite a bit. Yu Jio practically squeezed the words out through gritted teeth. Shisheng crossed his arms. Brother Yu Jio, are you sure you don't want to go to the restroom? After being reminded by Shisheng, she clenched her butthole and grabbed Shisheng to walk towards the restroom. When they reached the men's washroom, Yu Jio released the Shisheng but didn't forget to warn. Wait for me outside. If you dare to leave, haha, see how I'll deal with you. Shisheng smiled brightly. Of course she couldn't leave. She was still waiting to beat him up. When Yu Jio entered, Shisheng leaned against the wall, his fingertips twirling in the air. There was spiritual energy in this world, but with her body's aptitude, it was impossible for her to determine if Yu Jio was Feng Xi in a short period of time. Yu Jio stayed inside for quite a while before coming out. When he saw Shisheng waiting for him outside, his expression relaxed. At least she was obedient. However, in the next second he felt a sharp pain in his stomach and had to return to the toilet. Seeing Yu Jio run to the restroom time and time again, Shisheng was very happy. That's what you get for messing with the eye. In the end, Yu Jio ordered the waiter to buy some medicine before ending his lovey-dovey journey with the toilet. Big brother Yu Jio, does it feel good? Shisheng repeated the words Big brother Yu Jio 1,000 times. Yu Jiu leaned weakly against the wall and smiled. Xiaoxia Mimi, you win. This time he admitted defeat. The girl who only knew how to cry back then had actually learned how to fight back. Shisheng mimicked his smile and said in a faint voice, "If there's a next time, I'll let you experience what it means to be unable to stop." Yu Jiu didn't say anything and only looked at him. The little girl who would cry whenever he glared at her had now grown into a slender and elegant woman. His brows arched and dimples appeared on his cheeks. Intentionally or otherwise, his gaze swept over Shisheng's chest. "I wonder how Xiaoxia Mimi is going to make me unable to stop? Shisheng. F***ck this idiot." Shisheng looked around. Seeing that there was no one around, he pushed Yu Jiu into an empty private room. "Xiaoxia Mimi?" Yu Jiu was flabbergasted. "So you've had a crush on Gij for so long?" Shisheng closed the door and flexed his fingers with a sinister smile. "That's right. I've had a crush on you for so long." Yu Jiu never imagined that his little green plum would become so violent. Fortunately, she didn't hit him in the face. After being beaten up, Yu Jiu was clearly more well-behaved. He no longer faced Shisheng with that sinister smile. Instead, he pursed his lips, the corners of which were slightly upturned, giving others the impression that he was smiling. When they went downstairs, Shisheng was prepared to leave immediately. However, Yu Jiu stopped him and pointed in the direction of the hall. "Xiaoxia Mimi, why don't we go in and take a look?" "What, you want to buy something for me?" Yu Jiu flashed that infuriating smile again. "If Xiaoxia Mimi wants it, I'll buy it even if I have to go bankrupt." Shisheng. His hands were itching to beat him up again. Chain Mission 1. Attend an auction with Yu Jiu. The system's voice suddenly rang out. Who would want to attend an auction with this idiot? Whoever wanted to go could go. In any case, I wasn't going. Shisheng lifted his feet and headed outside. Just as he was about to step out of the revolving door, it was as though a layer of transparent glass blocked his way. The revolving door then pulled him back inside. She walked out of it easily. "There's a ghost. F***ck. Shisheng refused to believe it and continued to try. Still, he couldn't walk out. "Xiaoxia Mimi, how old are you? You're still playing this game." Yu Jiu stood not too far away. "Playing your grandpa? That idiot system actually dared to use underhanded tricks. I won't talk to the host. I won't bicker with the host." Shisheng looked at the people in the hall. Not only were there a lot of people, there were even policemen with guns. By now, some of the policemen had already noticed her. Shisheng gave up on the impulse to hack at her with his iron sword, and turned to walk back to Yu Jiu's side. He fiercely said, "Let's go. Xiaoxia Mimi isn't as cute as when she was younger." Shisheng. You're cute to the heavens." Just now, she should have beaten him until he couldn't get up. Seeing Shisheng's fierce gaze, Yu Jiu immediately shut up and walked toward the auction hall. The person checking the invitation carefully read it several times before asking cautiously, "Little girl, how are you related to Mr. Yu?" Today's auction was very important, so they had to verify her identity. The two people in front of them were too young, and the invitation they were holding was someone the organizers had instructed them to pay attention to. "He's my father," Yu Jiu replied. "Please wait a moment." He took the invitation and left. About 5 minutes later, he returned and handed the invitation back to Shisheng. "Please come in." The auction hall was decorated with an ancient charm. There were glass display windows all around, and some of the exhibits were displayed inside. A few people were gathered in front of the exhibits, discussing them. After passing through a door, they arrived at the auction hall. There were already a few people in the seats. Some sat alone, while others sat in groups of 2s and 3s. Their voices were all very soft. "Xiaoxia Mimi." Yu Jiu pointed to a seat slightly in front. "Our seats are over there." Shisheng glared at him. Did he not know where I was? Did I need you to remind me? Idiot. Shisheng. You voted. Every vote earns you 1 Yu Jiu. Chapter 345. The auction was supposed to start at 9, but it was only 8:30. There was still half an hour to go. People started arriving one after another. Shi Sheng and Yu Jiu, one underage and the other seemingly underage, sat near the front. It was inevitable that they would attract attention. Xiaoxia Mimi, do they think I'm especially handsome? Yu Jiu asked narcissistically as he edged closer to Shi Sheng. Shi Sheng coldly replied. They're afraid you won't have the money to pay. Yu Jiu. His childhood sweetheart wasn't cute at all. The auction officially started at 9. Shi Sheng wasn't the least bit interested in these things and simply stared at the floor with her head lowered. Xiaoxia Mimi. Can you see money by staring at the floor? Shi Sheng tilted her head. Can I make a request of you? Under the refraction of the light, her eyes were like the surface of a sparkling lake, rippling with shallow ripples. But upon closer inspection, it seemed to be a piece of tranquility. Yu Jiu blinked and nodded with a smile. Xiaoxia Mimi, let's hear it. Shut up. So noisy. A man really was that talkative. Villains died from talking too much, you know? Yu Jiu. What did his childhood sweetheart mean? After successfully shutting Yu Jiu up, Shi Sheng propped up her chin and looked at the auction stage. The item being auctioned was a jade hairpin. The auctioneer praised it as if it were a one-of-a-kind item, paired with a touching historical story. It didn't take long for a silly roe deer to take the bait. 1 million. 1,200,000. 1,400,000. Being an auctioneer wasn't a job for a single person. Not only did they have to be eloquent, but they also had to be sharp-eyed and quick-witted. 3 million going once. 3 million going twice. Sold. The auctioneer hammered the gavel, and the host immediately removed the jade hairpin. Shi Sheng glanced sideways at the silly roe deer that had won the jade hairpin. Unexpectedly, she saw the female lead. The female lead was with the 2 male supporting characters she'd seen at the antique street last time. The 2 of them surrounded the female lead. Xiaoxia Mimi, what are you looking at? Seeing that Shi Sheng hadn't turned around for a long time, Yu Jiu followed her gaze. Wen Jingxian. Xiaoxia Mimi, you know them? Shi Sheng could hear the displeasure in Yu Jiu's voice. She turned around. It's none of your business. An unreadable emotion flashed through Yu Jiu's eyes. Little sister Xia's matters are my matters, so of course it's my business. There was something wrong with him. Shi Sheng labeled Yu Jiu. At the end of the auction was a piece of Yuan dynasty blue and white porcelain. Shi Sheng didn't know much about these things, but when she went to a museum with her phone, she saw that the unit behind the Yuan dynasty's blue and white porcelain was 100 million. This kind of rare item was most likely the female lead's. He just didn't know where the female lead had found him. As soon as Yuan Qinghua appeared, the crowd below boiled over. Of course, there weren't many people who had the ability to buy it. Although the others were excited, they only wanted to look at it. Sure enough, when the auctioneer announced the starting price, the crowd quieted down. The bidders were mostly from the first 2 rows. In the end, it was won by the old man in the first row. Judging from the attitude of the people around him, he was probably someone of high status. After the auction ended, the people who had bought the items had to go backstage to settle the bill. Yu Jiu said he needed to go to the washroom and asked Shi Sheng to wait for him here. Shi Sheng waited and waited, but he didn't come out. In the end, almost everyone had left, but there was still no sign of him. Shi Sheng's face instantly darkened. What was this idiot up to now? She looked in the direction of the female lead. She was talking to the old man who had won the Yuan dynasty blue and white porcelain. She didn't know what they were talking about, but the old man seemed very happy. Did the female lead just hug a golden thigh? According to the rules of the supporting female lead, as the supporting female lead, she would definitely go up to find fault with the female lead and get slapped in the face. However, Shi Sheng didn't do anything. Instead, the female lead came over herself. Plot Sama. I'm kneeling to you. What kind of grudge do you have with the supporting female lead? Why do you have to torture her to death? Sheng Xia, what a coincidence. You're here too. Shen Jiaoyin had an appropriate smile on her face. It's not a coincidence. Shi Sheng took a few steps back. The words I don't like you, don't talk to me, were written all over her face. Shen Jiaoyin was speechless. Last, do you know her? Wen Jingxian was a gentle supporting male lead. His words were gentle, And his looks were even more gentle. We're classmates. Shen Jiayin nodded. I didn't expect to see her here. Shisheng saw the disdain in Shen Jiayin's eyes again. Shisheng cocked her neck and said bluntly, Shen Jiayin, what exactly do you despise me for? Shen Jiayin blinked and looked at Shisheng innocently and blankly. Sheng Xia, what are you talking about? Nothing. Shisheng sneered. Don't ever think of getting someone who pretends not to know to admit that she knows. Shen Jiayin was speechless. Why was this conversation so strange? Shen Jiayin really couldn't continue the conversation. How can you speak with such a bad attitude? Didn't anyone at home teach you manners? Xiechen felt indignant for Shen Jiayin. Xiechen was more impulsive. He was younger than Wen Jingxian and was a straightforward person. Shisheng glanced at him. It's none of your business whether I'm polite or not. Have I eaten your food or taken your money? Since you don't have any, what right do you have to ask me to be polite? Are you crazy? Xiechen was speechless. You're the crazy one, aren't you? Manners are the most basic social etiquette. If you don't even know this, how dare you come to such an occasion? Aren't you afraid of offending people? Oh, I've offended you now. What can you do to me? Shisheng raised her chin provocatively. Are you trying to say that I'll make it impossible for you to survive here? You only dare to say this to people whose status isn't as high as yours. Do you dare to say this to those who are of higher status? Xiechen was speechless. The system really doesn't understand why the host likes to provoke people so much. Would it kill her to speak properly? Sometimes it's hard to change a habit. Shisheng was guarded against everyone. As long as she didn't like a single word, she would immediately start a fight. She couldn't wait to stab you until you were covered in bruises. Don't say that he's unreasonable and unreasonable. What do you mean by let people off whenever possible? People like her usually swallowed their grievances. Shisheng was never one to swallow his grievances. Usually if she swallowed her grievances, then you have to be careful. She'll definitely make a big move later. The system was thankful that this wasn't some other world. If this was a world of cultivation or where murder wasn't illegal, Shisheng would have already drawn his sword and killed her. Excuse me, are you Miss Sheng? A woman in an MC's gown suddenly walked over and broke the awkward atmosphere. Shisheng sized up the woman. She retracted her sharp aura and nodded politely. Yes. The MC smiled. It's like this, Miss Sheng. Mr. Yu has something to do and left early. Can I trouble you to settle the bill for his collection? Say that again. The MC saw that the girl opposite her didn't get angry. Instead, she calmly asked her to say it again. She smiled and repeated it. Asterisk, my little sweetheart is courting death again. You're tuning into the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.